All in red tonight.
And we're live. Hello, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
We just realized as we sat here that we were really matchy tonight. It was not intentional.
Actually, we're really matchy.
I know.
Shirt's like exactly the same color as your shirt.
No, that's what I said
or,
as it came
actually,
on.
it isn't. It just looks like it.
It looks like it on the camera. Mine's a little darker. But anyways.
Hello, everyone.
So, boy, oh boy, you guys are in here early tonight. Hello, little Homestead by the Beach. And Eldan, hello. Bev, Urban Homesteading, hello. Huga Homestead, Bucket List. Little House in the Big Woods. Wow.
Hopefully everybody's doing well.
Mm-hmm.
I see some talk about not super nice weather.
Yeah, we got a little bit of ice today, and then we actually moved two of our older bred ewes inside because they were out and getting that ice on their fur or fleece, wool. Whatever, wool, and just did not look very happy tonight, and we were a little bit worried about them. So,
hello, Sean.
So we did bring them in as well tonight. So the barn is a packed house tonight. The geese have to be in the hall because it is
only two of them.
Well, yeah, but they usually get a stall to themselves, but that's now allocated elsewhere.
Have the whole barn to themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, Chris gave you a wrench, Marilyn. Saw you were talking to Eldan there earlier, so we were like, well, we'll make sure we get a wrench, and then that way you guys can post some links or that sort of thing. Eldan can post a link to her new video. Yes. We just watched it. It looked so magical, but I'm pretty sure she's also wishing for, or they are also wishing for spring, same way we are, as much as it looks so pretty out there with all the ice glimmering in the sun.
Well, it's when you get into the freezing rain, it's never.
No. And it's slippery on the paths. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to start getting spikes on the shoes if
it keeps up. Rain there.
Yeah. Hey, Hello, 2, Remy. And Remy, Susan, tongue twister, sorry. Susan Hetherington, hello. I haven't looked outside yet, but when we went to do chores, it did stop doing the freezing rain. It wasn't really even doing anything, but they are calling for a lot of rain tonight. So
you'll have a lot of rain and the melt.
Yes, 1, 2, everybody, thumbs up now so we don't forget.
And thank you.
Yes, thank you.
We don't have
Remy, you want a wrench? Chris loves to hand out wrenches. Eventually, everybody will just be blue. That's his method. If you want a wrench, just let Chris know.
If you want a blue wrench, we can hook you up. Hello, Wren's Homestead.
Hello, New Brunswick. Well, welcome to the Chit Chat.
We keep meaning, we're going to say it, we keep meaning to watch your bagel video, but we haven't got that far yet. So it is on our to-do list.
Bagel video. I think we better write that down.
I still have it open to watch.
Oh, my, you still have it open from the other
video, but their channel.
The channel from the other live.
No, we're definitely glad, going back to Susan's comment about the squash video. I'm going to say it, we were a little, nervous is not the right word, but kind of always wonder if we're bombarding people with the quote-unquote economic stuff. But Plowman's Backyard had a really nice comment actually today. She's not in here right now, but on that, she was basically like, you can save a lot if you do it right. And not right as in thou shalt do it my way. That's not the point.
Really?
Really? It's just, I don't know.
Hello, VPL from Manitoba.
Oh, another.
Hope you're having a good evening. Hopefully, out in Manitoba, you're having a bit better weather than we are here with our rain. I know. I actually talked to my parents are in Manitoba, and I talked to them on Sunday. Sunday. It was
cold.
Sunday, and they were saying it was quite cold, and they still had lots of snow. Mm-hmm. So not sure what area you're in, but they're the Interlake area. So.
And hello, Billy Lee. We did get your email, by the way. We definitely going to look into that. We just haven't done that yet, but it did come through. So thank you very much for sending that.
I need to be extra and freezing some this time.
Emptying the fridge last night was tough.
Oh.
No, that's completely fair. Issues with deliveries. Wondering if you received. Did we receive
We got a package of seeds today. I didn't open them yet, though.
They might be from you.
Give
me 1 second. I'll go check.
You'll go check? Okay. Yeah. Sorry, we got one. I picked one package up in the mail when I went out this afternoon, but we hadn't opened it yet. We just hadn't gotten a chance. It kind of got put on the table for later. Remy's on his cell phone. So I hate that you can't tag on a cell phone. Somebody did say there was a way to do it, but we haven't figured it out. You were funny though last night about the fridge. We need to start having a drink with our live. We need to mix a drink. What have you got?
Well, I'm actually not sure.
Okay, so the question for Susan is, what did you send?
Was it the...
We'll do a reveal. Because the name's not on the envelope. Oh, I guess I could look. Oh, no, I can't do it right now. I was going to say I could look up because we sent
so we might have
to you. So we might have. It might be from you. We also had one more. We were going to save it for opening on another video because we had one more package of seeds that we got earlier in the week that we wanted that was part of the Canadian Seed Challenge. So we wanted to do another video. Oh, I'm having a brain fart. I keep reading ahead because you guys are chatting about all sorts of good stuff, and then I get lost in my thought. I know I saw that and booked your holidays.
That's awesome.
Yes, we have to make a big decision about it because we're going for the homesteading conferences on the Saturday, and Mother's Day is the Sunday, and so we kind of were like, oh, because we only have our kids half time, like we only have the kids half time. And so I have to make a decision whether I want the Mother's Day weekend or not. And I'm like, oh, the conference is on. And so I don't know whether to do it that we bring the kids to the conference, which they'd love it. They'd have a great time.
We'll figure.
Or,
we've got lots of time.
Anyways, we don't have lots of time. It's like
just about to say that.
a month and it's 2 months away.
I was just about to say that time. I mean, we're already at the end of February. Like how crazy is that?
Yeah.
Where did January and February go?
But I think that's awesome that you booked it, and I hope that it all works out perfect to do with Thorhaven, and it's going to be really good. Chris sorted out his topic for talking at the conference. Hopefully,
one of two. I'm not sure which one.
Well, did you read her email back?
Oh,
she already told you.
Well, I have not.
It's already going to be on the posters.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Well, then what? I guess what is it?
I don't remember. I can't remember what you gave her for choices.
It was like livestock, things to think about, or sort of general.
Starting a homestead. That was the one. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. So there's the topic.
Important things to think about when starting a homestead and things to consider. I think. Yeah.
So it should be interesting.
Yeah.
So now I've got to make a presentation.
Yes. Bucket list, you're going to the convention, right? We're going to push this convention to everybody. It's going to be great.
So Sean has a chicken question. When adding a rooster to a flock, how do I maintain the eating eggs and not just end up with all fertile eggs?
You can eat the fertile eggs.
To be honest, yeah, as long as you're not.
Our roosters are always with our eggs.
Even if they sit on them for, I'm going to say a day. Let's say they were late in the early morning and you didn't pick them out until the evening. They're not going to develop enough that it's going to make a difference.
No. Hey, Dave Knight.
A lot of the stuff about grading and whatnot is more about looking for little abnormalities, but that doesn't have much to do with them developing. Now, if you had a lot of birds, but I think you'll probably be able to collect fairly regularly, so you shouldn't have an issue.
Yeah. Like we keep all of our birds are in groups of 5 to 8 hens with a rooster, and that's year round. They always have the rooster with them.
Pretty much.
Okay, except for if sometimes they're young.
Not to have the rooster anymore, but I need the name of our birds.
Partridge Chanticleers.
Yes. Yep. I have no idea if you can get partridge chanticleers in Alaska. I have had a few people ask about shipping them, but we can't ship cross border, so because there's a whole lot of other stuff you have to do to make that work. But yeah.
But how come you can bring eggs from the grocery store cross border?
because they've gone through a grading facility and they're not hatching eggs.
Well, you just have to send them to somewhere.
I'm pretty sure you can't send hatching eggs. There's some weird stuff about day olds, but
Huh.
I haven't really looked into it in a while. But
Yeah.
bucket list. The conference is part
His
of
Mother's
her
Day gift.
It's awesome. And yes, thank you for sharing the link. That is
Yes.
awesome.
Everybody, definitely go check out Dan's first video. It's a nice little short one. Make sure you click subscribe and watch.
Oh, that's awesome that Dave's already got 60 liters of maple sap to
boil.
boil.
Oh, wow. Well, I guess, yeah, because there was a good warm up.
And you're southwestern Ontario, if I'm not mistaken. Try to remember everybody's location roughly, but you're probably a little bit ahead of us. Although not a lot, because we're not too far.
Well, our trees, though, the freeze would still be really heavy around there.
Well, and especially where they are.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of north facing. The Homesteaders Conference is in Lanark, Ontario, so a very little town, not too far from us. That would be a pretty long
trip for. Well, you could fly and then, but it would be fun. I don't know. I think the general consensus is hopefully it'll take off as something that because I don't know if there is any homesteading conventions like the American Homesteaders.
I don't think so.
Is there a Canadian Homesteaders convention?
It's a little one, Susan. They've tried to set it up a couple of times, but the last couple of years it hasn't happened. So this is fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Nothing. A fifth wave does not happen before May 6th.
Or something else.
But yeah, it's in Lanark, Ontario. I froze for a second there. Hopefully our thing is behaving.
We'll share some more information as it gets closer to.
If somebody actually could there we go. Little Homestead on the Beach, I think perfect. Just shared the Facebook.
Excellent.
That's it's a Facebook page. There isn't a lot of websites and stuff. Like we said, this is I think the third year now of attempting to try and have it for the first time and it not kind of happening. So hopefully this year it works well. I see. Hi, Chrissy. Hello. But yes, so that's awesome that you got the link in there.
It's getting to be so much interest in it.
Well, and it's exciting. Sean's saying that he does every day.
If you're collecting every day, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. If you lose track and somebody gets sitting in the corner for a while, you might not. If it's a couple days and they've collected a few, you might not want to. But if you're collecting every day, you'd be just fine.
Yeah. Okay, he's in the Windsor area, so yeah, he would have.
So he'd be a little ahead
of us. A good zone ahead, at least. Yeah.
Maybe 2 actually.
Potentially.
Windsor, it might even be 3 ahead of us.
Yeah.
We're still pretty south for Canada, but you've definitely got us beat.
So Sean's thinking of adding to the flock.
Oh, once you get into chickens.
Chicken math. Look out. But you know what? Really, it is so simple. I mean, I think the chickens are one of the easiest things. I mean, even if we keep all our different lines, so we keep them all in different buildings, but it still works awesome. Mm-hmm. Hey, Manu Acres. But it is really simple. You put out the food, you put out the water, you open the gate. Yeah.
Well, really the eggs they produce.
Oh.
And we say it all the time. It all depends on your situation. Ducks and quail lay lots of eggs too. Yeah. So depending on your resources that you have, they're excellent alternatives. I mean, we raised ducks for years.
Yeah.
But just where we are now, the chickens definitely work better for us. But you'll probably like turkeys. I used to raise turkeys. I used to have Narragansett turkeys. They were great. The biggest problem with them was keeping them where you wanted them. You probably won't have the same problem, though, Sean. They probably won't go very far from...
Well, your problem... And the other thing was they were always jumping on vehicles and stuff.
Well, that's also true.
But Bucket List says no Canadian Homesteaders thing yet, which that's what I think the hope is that this will develop into something.
Mm-hmm.
Yes to no more lockdown stuff. Exactly.
Sorry, just trying to catch up a little bit because we're a bit behind. Was Marlene thinking of coming too?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be awesome. Not too far.
There's going to be tons of us.
Chrissy should come down. Everybody, come to the homesteading conference. Super excited.
Yes, exactly, Sean. The fact that they're basically, you say it's like pets with a purpose. Not that pets for enjoyment is not a bad, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's great when you can have a pet that gives you something back that's edible.
Yeah.
Like eggs.
Oh, exactly.
Oh, and Chrissy got the mail. Excellent. That is perfect.
Good.
Ratio of females to males.
Hopefully some of the stuff we sent will be helpful.
So that's a good question, Aldan, with the ratio. So I'm going to say for the chickens, super general rule of thumb with the Chanticleers anyways. I don't like... You can do 1. It's not a great ratio. 2 works okay. Like if you only had 2 hens and a rooster, that's not too bad because I'm going to say it this way. Nobody really gets the upper hand in the pecking order. Those 2 hens are kind of equal. But I find 3 is a terrible number because one of those hens is at the bottom of the pecking order. And even though the rooster doesn't usually partake in the pecking order, whoever's at the bottom is getting bred a lot.
Yeah.
So if you go above the 2, like
it's got to be 4.
4, but 5 or 6 is usually pretty good. We find when we get a little bigger than that, it just gets like because we have so many lines, it gets a little out of control.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, like a lot of the old books and stuff talk about, I think it's like 15 or so for a lot of the heritage breed chickens. You can have the rooster cover them. The problem is, like, if you had like a 30 layer flock of dual purpose birds, so Chanticleers, Barred Rocks, whatever, the rooster probably won't, sounds bad, get around to all the hens if you wanted for legs. So then you never really know, which is the other nice part about sometimes keeping them in smaller groups with the more roosters. Because anyways, hopefully that answers the question. The other day I was told honey badgers, it was a good comment. It was constructive criticism for sure, but that I never have a simple answer. And I think that's
you don't give people the option of the Coles Notes version.
But there isn't usually a simple answer.
I know. But basically, I think we aim for a minimum of 4 birds per line with a rooster.
If we can.
Maximum of 8. That's where we kind of sit, is between 4 and 8, because we do find if you go under 4, you have problems with them pecking order
once
stuff.
Once we get over 8, we find it's more advantageous to have a different group with a different rooster with different genetics, because then you can always do the bump rather than 30 hens,
with one rooster trying to be looking after them.
Well, and still have to be dependent on getting more roosters all the time.
So
we're a little weird.
Not really. And I'll just quickly address her other one about the egg. You'll have to see, was it a double yoker? Because we've gotten a couple double yokers, and boy, they're just like delightful for cooking.
I do agree. I apologize in advance too. I might sound a little hoarse at times. I am getting over an old-fashioned cold. Haven't heard a lot of people with those lately, but that is unfortunately my reality right now. But I agree with Ren's homestead about the duck eggs. Yeah. We used to raise the khaki Campbells, and the eggs were great for baking and stuff.
And quiche. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they made really, really good quiche.
On bucket list is adding 4 more chickens this year.
So what kind did you end up getting if they weren't, or what were you after, and what did you get?
Mm-hmm.
Be interested?
Or what are you getting? You're adding more. Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Because you guys were talking about that last night. I was kind of bugging you about the rooster part. We do have them, but I get it. Angie, because you want to make sure you've got something that, because you guys lost quite a few of them in a very short period of time.
Didn't you lose 3 or 4?
Mm-hmm. But that being said, that's one of those, I guess, sort of telltale signs of foxes and stuff. They'll often come and they can raid really quick, right? Take it away and store it. So they're just doing what they're doing too, but it's never great.
The only thing I would say, Sean, about the chickens would be, it depends what you're after, because the only reason to go to more roosters really would be if you're after getting hatching chicks.
Now, the one thing, I don't have experience about this either, but I have heard, and I've not been around too many, but the Rhode Island red roosters can be a little bit on the more aggressive side compared to some breeds. So you might want to just start with the one. Mm-hmm. It all depends though, right? If you wanted to split your flock and house them separate. I think 2 together.
Yeah, they'd be battling each other probably.
Well, the one thing that we found, and this is totally just anecdotal because it may not be replicable, but they fight less when they grow up together to a degree. That doesn't mean that they don't fight, but
they seem to understand that somebody's the head guy. And
yeah, whereas if, like, let's say you brought in two roosters from 2 different places at the same time and try to put them together, you're going to have a pretty good fight. Now, that being said, every spring, if we don't let all of our adult roosters out at the same time usually, but we've had a couple that go up to the coop fence, like the run fence, and they still fight through the fence, and they can't really do any lasting damage.
Yeah.
So, but that's at that time of year when their hormones are just like through the roof too, right? Time to breed. Got a chicken egg the size of a duck egg. Those are always yeah.
That's what I said. Is it a double yoker? We are looking forward to the convention, Billy Lee. I think it'll be good fun. And like you say, I mean, it came just at that time because we were watching all the Homesteader in America convention stuff and everybody getting together and posting lives on YouTube and whatever. We were like, nobody does that in Canada.
Oh, we do the same thing with the chickens. We do feed, quote unquote, meat, usually cooked because we find they just eat it better. But they like it. They are omnivores. There's no question about that.
Stop moving the table. You're jiggling it. Jiggling the whole camera.
Oh, sorry, just kind of catching up here. Well, hopefully your husband is improving. It's never fun to be in hospital.
No,
Susan, but definitely best wishes. That's not really a tongue twister to say that, but go on to some local farms, Homestead towards the summer too. Well, that's a good idea. Doing some local farm tours and stuff to get an idea of what other people are doing in your area. We've done that, not in an official way.
No,
but we've gone
there's
to other people's. And we know a few. We've gone to a few people's farms that are on here tonight, but we've also gone to some other people's that are local, and you see how they do it. And
yeah. That was like as we were watching Eldan's video, we're like, do you think she was standing there? Do you think she was? Because we've had the tour, we couldn't quite figure it out. We were like, is she in the hill or is she back where the thing, But we heard the sheep.
We never, to be honest, we never thought about bringing anything to the convention to
well, there was because she was looking for vendors and stuff, but we don't really have a lot of things to offer at this point, but maybe we'd be a little bit more organized next year. But since Chris was doing it's not a seminar, but like a talk at it, we kind of thought, well, that's good for now. And we didn't know if we'd have the kids. So it was kind of one of those, we'll leave it as that for this year. But maybe in future years, we'll be organized enough to have some stuff to bring, because I'd love to. But especially as we get more into the YouTube stuff, I was really hoping to have stickers ready for the convention, and I can give everybody a sticker at least. That's my hope anyway. So fingers crossed, I'll get on that.
You could always, Sean, too, try to get a younger rooster. May or may not be doable, but a younger rooster, we've had this sometimes, the hens put him in his place, for lack of a better way to put it. But sometimes, I don't know, he's less hard on them. It all depends. The other tip, if you get, this is just the tip, but look for the dancing roosters. If you get the chance, the roosters who dance, they do like the side step shuffle. They put their wings down and they do this little kind of like 2-step over to the side. Those are far better than the roosters who just run up behind the hens and grab them.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just a little thing if you get the opportunity to see that in action.
Mm-hmm.
We got to try to get that on video. I don't know if we actually have.
You tried. Hey Jojo, how you doing?
Christy says my shirt reminds him of the I Am Canadian commercials. Yeah, this is another thrift store find. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get it. And right now, it's not a bad shirt to be wearing.
No, it's a good one to be wearing.
Wanted lavender Orpingtons and Majesties, but we're getting Sextons and some more Azure Blues. Okay. I've heard of the Azure Blues.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever looked in or heard of the Majesties before. I definitely heard of the Orpingtons. This is years ago, like 2008, when I was looking into chickens. The black Australorps, which are derived from the Orpingtons, was something that I was looking into, but definitely glad I went with the Chanticleers. Can't wait to get to it. Chickens. The chickens love me when I have raw beef fat. Ours are funny because we've got a young group. Well, I say young; they're like 3/4 grown now, but they were late hatch, and they're in the barn.
They're the November hatch babies.
Yeah, and they know when you come with the bucket, that's food, and so they follow you everywhere with the bucket.
And as soon as you set the bucket down, they all hop on the ledge, and you have to like.
That's you that taught them that.
I know.
Hello, Cindy Squirrel.
Yes.
How are you? Sorry, we're behind, as per usual.
We haven't even gotten to what we were going to talk about yet.
No. Oh, that's cool. Bucket List is working on stickers. And we made it to the end.
So are you making the stickers yourself, or are you getting them printed somewhere? That'd be interesting to know, because you're not far from us. So where are you getting them done, or are you just doing it through an online company?
And hello Fox Outdoors. How are you tonight?
Yeah, because I think I'd like to get some stickers done for it, at least.
We talked about making some ourselves. We actually bought the sticker
templates, to print them yourself. We just haven't figured out doing that yet.
/ we just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, we just haven't made time. But
on that note, it is pretty much time. You said this yesterday, I think it was. You're like, we're late. We haven't got anything started yet.
We're in typical Hickorycroft farm fashion of we should have stuff started and whatnot, and we're late. We haven't even organized the grow room to get things started yet.
Well, we do have some things growing in there, but
but they're not stuff for going out in the garden next year.
So our first thing for this year, which I guess goes into what are we going to change? We're going to do an experiment, thanks to Angie, because she sent us some rice seeds, some long grain rice seeds. So we've looked into rice before. Actually, it's something I've never grown, but it's really long grower. So we've got to get that started sooner than later if we're going to get anything.
Well, because the pack said to start it 8 weeks before last frost, which we are getting really close now. Well, we're less than 8 weeks, I think, now, but give or take a bit. But anyway, so I went out today and I got a bunch of trays because the pack is 250 seeds. And if we want the little, so anyways, I went out and bought these big 81, what do you call those? They hold 9
seed trays.
Plug type things, right?
We're going to try them as plugs and see how that goes. Yeah. I know, I think it should work well. Mm-hmm. We're not sure how this experiment's going to go, but we're going to give it a try.
Yeah, exactly. So that is something we're not going to do. This is a terrible thing that we had a habit of doing last year. It was our first time really doing the garden season for our YouTube channel, and we plunged into a lot of the experiments right away, showing a first video, excited to get started, and then it just kind of fizzled, and we never...
Well, we also started that from 2021, right?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And so it kind of ended up that there was a lot of things that didn't get wrapped up and finished because either they failed or we didn't get around to videoing it. And so this year we're going to contain our experiments all into one video so that it's start to finish all the way through. So unfortunately
for that experiment.
Yeah. So unfortunately it won't,
like what you did with your
the beans.
Navy bean experiment, which actually worked out pretty well.
So there won't be anything really coming until the end about it, other than maybe some of our garden tours when we talk as we walk by things. But it'll be interesting to see how the experiment goes from start to finish. So
that's pretty cool that they have the plow days.
Yeah,
you get to see it. Where I grew up, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to do it, and they had a lot of the old equipment and stuff. And it wasn't just tractors. It used to be like horse-drawn washing machines and all that sort of stuff people would brought. But I think now it's gone a little more to the tractor side of it, which is still interesting. But it's neat to see it actually done.
Yeah, the real draft power.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I'll be honest. I've only ever had one white Chanticleer before. I had got one in a batch, kind of by accident. Came in a batch of eggs, and we didn't keep with them. So that's like way back at the beginning. And because the place we had ordered the eggs from, we actually got them shipped from BC, and they had both breeds, so they just accidentally gave us the white Chanticleer. But definitely, we're super happy with the partridge ones, and I know that they're very similar. I always say that from what I understand, the white Chanticleers are a bit more like an egg layer with good dual purpose qualities, and I think the partridge are more the meat bird with decent egg laying qualities. Still picks in both dual purpose birds. Oh, that's awesome that you shared your channel. So definitely go and
Little Homestead did right after.
yeah,
so
which is perfect.
Everybody should be in there and give it a check out and encouraged to get to the next video. Chanticleer's next year.
I can't go near the back door at all, or the chickens lose their minds. Yep. Yep, definitely know that feeling. That's when you know that spoiled or well looked after, however you want to look at it.
Well, that's like, and again, this is coming in a complete video from start to finish about our little house chicken that's broke her leg that's in the house. Anyways, she now is kind of out and about, and she thinks she's a cat. And if you go to the stove to make anything, the cats all come running and they're underneath you meowing and wanting you to throw something down for them. Well, now the chicken is in the cats.
Yep. House chicken.
Yes. Yeah, she is settled in, that's for sure.
So we've never ourselves dug a pond, but we do have one on our property. Now, it's in an old
sand. It's not really
sand
a pond, yeah, it's an old sand
well,
pit.
it's a pond in the bottom of the old sand pit, so it functions.
It's a hole in the bottom of the sea.
Sure.
It's a hole in the bottom of the pit.
But it functions a little differently because what basically happens is everything kind of percolates through the sand and then comes out into the pond. So it's not spring fed, but it is. I always call it like pseudo groundwater. It's not like a groundwater upwelling, but you have your
it's all just
sand
filtered.
and you've got a water table. Well, the pond is below the water table, so but it's not the same water table that our well is on. Our well is lower than that, quite a bit actually. I think you should start a channel. Honestly, yeah. I think I'm gonna say this before we keep going on stuff, but anybody who is doing the stuff, I think it's worth starting a channel because there's a lot of conversations, and Remy and Darren and Mike and myself had that conversation last week on Remy's channel. So if you want, go back and Remy can share the link. You can go back and watch that discussion. But yeah, I think with the homesteading kind of quote unquote genre on YouTube, if you're already doing it, then it's kind of picking up some filming skills and working with that. But you kind of have tons of content. It's just something to think about.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, they are the lab coats. You even have a white lab coat, don't you? Or you have it's some type of white coat that you have.
Yeah, it kind of
downstairs.
looks like
a lab coat.
Yeah.
They are long grain rice, so it'll be interesting to see. And they don't need a patty. They don't need a patty. They just need to be kept well watered.
Well, rice is one of those things. There's like varieties and species, because there's different species of rice. There's ones that need to be like submerged or very, very wet, and then there's upland rices as well. And so it gets really complicated. The quote unquote grass family gets really complicated, just trying to figure out what you've got. So we'll see how it goes.
Hey, John Faulkner, how you doing?
Hopefully you're doing well.
So Eldon, they dug a pond, didn't work so well.
I think it really depends on your soils, right? Because I'm going to say it this way with ponds. Think of it like an aquarium with a filter, right? Ours has a massive, it's like a pool. It has a massive sand filter. Massive, because it's a sand deposit.
Yeah.
But you've got to dig deep enough to get water level, but you've got all that percolation. But like a clay pond, you've got it's like a bowl, right? So you only have, this is just coming from my biology background, but it's like a water course in a clay area. The runoff and stuff has nowhere to go. There's no filtration. It just all sits there. Whereas when you have the sand, you're getting all sorts of bacterial. That's getting really complicated. But yes, it really does depend on your soil.
Chrissy, don't give him ideas. There will be a video now where I have to dress up.
Bunsen and Beaker.
He loves the Muppets.
I don't know if I can do Bunsen's voice. I definitely can't do it tonight, but I can do a few of the Muppets. Um, yes, the buff Chanticleers too. Yeah, I don't know if I want to open that can of worms tonight about the official, because there is, like with poultry, they're quote unquote standard bred, but there are lots of breeds that aren't accepted in the standard, because the standard, this is like my Cole's notes, the standard used to be to promote breeds like branding, right? If you looked at a Rhode Island Red, like what Sean has, you would go, "Oh, right, the Rhode Island Red does X, Y, and Z." If you picked up a Leghorn and it looked like a Leghorn, it does X, Y, and Z. So it was the old timey way of branding livestock so that you knew their production qualities. But I don't feel, I'm gonna say, I don't feel like the standard does that as effectively now as it used to, because you can take things to the extreme of perfection, the physical attributes at the expense of the others. And that's where I think there's always this kind of double-edged sword. You're looking unimpressed, but this
Oh
double-edged
no, I'm
sword
just reading ahead.
to selection, because on one side of the fence, keeping standard breeds or registered or purebred breeds, why does it matter? But it's exactly that. You know what you're getting, but you can take it too far as well. So there's like a middle ground where it's like, yeah, keep that standard as a guide, but
Yeah,
you got to look at your production stuff too, and that gets super complicated.
we found that as well. The bucket list, when we looked up the stickers, it was crazy. It was like crazy expensive. So that's where we kind of said, well, we could probably make them ourselves for cheaper, and got ambitious and even bought some of the stuff to make it, and just haven't done it yet. So we'll see how that goes. As 1-2 saying there about the channel, just
Yeah.
getting a chance to log what you do exactly. I mean, that's one thing that we found so handy, is we sit and we go, okay, so what did we do? What did we do this, or what was that? And it's like, wait, we did a video. Let's just go back and look, because we're terrible. Well, we're not terrible at keeping
and it's
records,
also a
but
good start, right? Because it's I'm going to say it, doing the YouTube stuff is a whole nother skill set.
Yeah.
That you may like or you may not like.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start it as a log kind of for yourself, if it takes off, that's awesome. If it doesn't, you still have value in it, right? It's kind of like everything else.
Yeah.
So that's why I would say go for it. Start it. It's there.
I was going to say as well, if anybody feels ambitious and wants to share any of the links for people that are in here, go right ahead. We have no problem with that. We just kind of like it to sort of be pertained to people that are in the chat and just, sharing their channels and stuff.
Mess up her hair so it's really big and crazy. On a total side note to anything, when I was in high school, one of my friends and I actually dressed up for it was like a Halloween dance or something. We dressed up as Statler and Waldorf, the two old guys from the balcony, and it was pretty impressive, because of course we're two teenagers, and I don't know, we for being humans trying to look like Muppets, we did a pretty good job. Let's just put it that way.
I think I took the packet upstairs, didn't I, of the rice? How many days was on it?
I don't remember exactly. It's pretty long. I think it's over 100 days.
Yeah.
And that's from transplant.
From transplant. So it'll be interesting to see if it works, if we can get it to work, because it's pushing it for us. But some of the beans that we grow are 110 days. And we do get a harvest from them. So fingers crossed. One thing I was going to say is... just because Susan's name came back up, I'm not sure if we missed it or if you said, but what did you send? Because we opened the packet that came, but there's no name with it. So I just wanted to see if it was from you. But then we'll know if we got your package or not. Maybe what you did say and I missed it. That was also possible.
Yeah, Chrissy, exactly. When you get into an area like a lake or pond that's groundwater fed, there's different ways groundwater can feed in, right? So there's it's almost like artesian, but underwater, where you'll feel it coming up, and you'll sometimes see it in the sediment at the bottom of the lake or pond, right? You'll see a little area depression, and that's like the little upwelling chimney. Those are always really interesting areas when you get that. Our pond is not that.
No,
our pond is more groundwater seepage,
but like it's really clear because it's filtered like crazy.
But it's not cold, because it's not real groundwater. It's like percolation through the soil. So that's a topic that would be very interesting, but it gets really complicated because there's so many variables to it.
John's getting ready for his syrup.
That's awesome.
Dave was in here earlier. I'm not sure if he's still in here, but
he said he was already collecting.
How much did he say he'd already collected?
Was it 60 liters?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
he's a little further south than you and I are.
Yeah, but so probably a good idea to get it going get it started and set up. We talked about that on our other live, the European style one. Yeah.
No, it's definitely an interesting idea. Oh, no worries about being all over the place. In case nobody guessed, we're all over the place in the conversation too. We're jumping around. Wow.
Oh, and the other thing, actually, well, I don't know. I don't think either of them are in here. But the one thing that I did want to say before I forget, because if they come and watch the rerun later, is congratulations to Miles Faulkner and Caitlin's family Farmstead for coming in first and second on our. How much did we bring into the house from the? How much? How do we word it? How many pounds of food product did we bring in? In the end, this year, for the 2021 year, we brought in 3,155 pounds of food, and Miles's guess was 2,900. So
he was closest.
He was closest, and Caitlin was next with 2,360. Is that what? I can't remember if that's what it was. But anyways, just wanted to say congratulations to both of them. I know they're not in here, but they sometimes watch through the reruns. So definitely we will get prizes sent out in the mail shortly.
And yes, Ren's Homestead, exactly. They were bred completely separate, and for different reasons too, slightly. But yeah, I'm going to say this, and again, I'm not whatever. It was the American standard of perfection. So when they submitted them, exactly, it was because it was coming from Canada. They were like, well, they're close enough, and they lumped them together. But they have a similar formula of how they were made.
Have a good night, Homestead on the beach. Hopefully we didn't miss you there.
But they weren't exactly the same. So it is interesting. But that's where it's interesting to know your breed, right? Because there's some breeds that have just been split up by colors or what have you, and there's other breeds that are completely not related to one another. And that kind of goes for everything.
Cat.
Well, hopefully you don't have to shovel too much in the morning.
We got really lazy, and we only cleared out the end of the driveway, and we parked closer to the end.
So no, I don't think this must have been from Northumberland Acres.
Okay. Yeah.
I think so. No, we didn't get it yet, but that doesn't mean anything because we think this is from Northumberland Acres because we were waiting on some from her too.
Yes. So we will wait for your package to arrive as well before we do our video. Yeah, we thought that as well, John. At least sort of a week.
Yeah, but he's down in
yeah, he's in Windsor area,
yeah,
so he's quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I said we couldn't even get in at our trees.
Oh, we could get out to them, but you'd never get anything back from them.
No, yeah. Yes, we were very, very pleased. That was kind of part of the discussion for tonight was, is that what we're aiming for again with what we bring in and what we were going to change for next year, or I guess it's this year now. But
well, I have to admit, I'm liking that a lot of people are saying they're planning on a lot of squash and pumpkins and those various members of the squash family because they I don't know, it's one of those things when we actually weighed it and then broke it down, like it's kind of fun doing those exercises when you actually say, it's actually tangible. It's like, well, we grew X.
Yeah.
And X has a value. And that's one thing we didn't do in the gardening economic video. We did not go through everything exhaustively, but we're not going to look at everything, but we may look at a few things because it's like the squash thing. When you $1.99 a pound, you wouldn't buy it. And it's healthy for you because the squash goes back to squash was one of the very first things that I started with this because even back in 2008, it was like, wow, squash is expensive. And I know why, because they don't travel well because they bruise and break and then they don't keep well if you're not careful. Hence why a lot of varieties you can't buy in the grocery store, i.e. Canada crookneck squash, because if the neck breaks off, it's basically got to be eaten right away. But it's expensive to buy them, right? So you wouldn't eat it. So you're going to make it up with other things.
Yeah. The sorry, go back up. Sorry, I was reading something and then
I got off on a tangent.
I know.
Honey badgers came in. I did say
Okay,
hello.
yes, yeah.
I see a cat sneaking under my
I
shoulder.
know, she's trying to get on you there. I was thinking for Remy with the lots of squash because our kids, well, because you've got kids too, and sometimes it's hard to feed them things like squash. I mean, as a kid, I was like, oh, I don't want squash, whatever. But honestly, I don't remember if did we send you any of the Canada crookneck ones seeds? If not, we can send you some.
I think we did, but I'm not sure.
But the Canada crookneck, they make amazing fries. They're very much like a sweet potato. You just dice them up, and I put them in the oven.
We've actually been so there's another thing. We like sweet potatoes. They're kind of fun to grow. They're a little bit of a pain to get out, but we found a way that works well for us. So,
but they're more tedious to start. That's the problem for me with sweet potatoes. Because the time invested at the beginning.
And because the squash are so similar, and this is where you can get into the nutritional value stuff, which we haven't broke that down. But
no,
we're going to keep growing the sweet potatoes, but we're going to make them like a second tier vegetable, if that makes sense.
Almost where we tried to kind of grow them as a main staple last year.
We were really thinking that was the whole team sweet potatoes / team potato, and it's like team potato 1 as a staple. Not completely surprising for where we are, and I think that's a big factor because if you were in a warmer climate, you might not do the same.
Well, and the other thing I was going to say, because Remy's comment on our video about the squash was you'd commented as well about the apples and things like that being similar, where you can, how much bang you can get for your buck with one apple tree. And that's something else that we want to do a video on and discuss because we actually harvested almost 600 pounds of apples this year from the property that we made juice, we made apple cider vinegar, we made sauce, we also had animal fodder food.
Well, the animal fodder is not part of that.
No, that's not even but I'm just saying
I'm going to go back to John's thing about the squashes. Go back. Have you tried feeding it to your animals? Because we've been doing some experiments with the rabbits.
They love it. The skin peeled off. Like if you've got, I don't know if you've got butternut or if it's
or like the Canada crookneck. Those types that have something you can actually peel.
If I give them the actual core, like the part that we like to eat, they won't touch it. But they love all the thicker peeled parts off the skin.
If we cube it up, and it's extra work, but if you cube it up, they will actually eat it.
Oh, they hoover it. They love it. I was just thinking, like, if you've got stuff that's going bad that you want to try and feed, even the cows would probably eat it.
Yeah, the cows probably would actually. And the chickens love the seeds.
Yeah.
So now one thing we always find with the chickens, we've done it both ways, but let's say, like a butternut squash, if you cut the ball off, or a Canada crookneck, you cut the ball off, there's still edible stuff there, but sometimes it's damaged or whatever. If we just put that, cut it in half and put it in the chicken coop, they'll pick it out, but they won't really eat the flesh. So we found it makes better use of it if you scoop the seeds out, throw them in a dish. Then they will eat the little bit of flesh that's on that, and then feed the bigger parts to the other
sheep
livestock.
or the rabbits. Yeah.
Yes, a root cellar. We actually are. It's not going to happen this year, but we are talking about building a proper one.
Yeah,
we're fortunate that we have the basement, and the basement stays at the temperature it does. It's not quite as good as the root cellar, but it's pretty darn close.
It's the problem with the basement is the lack of moisture.
Well,
in some ways,
which is a good thing in a basement,
but that's where a root cellar is different. We're noticing a lot of our root vegetables, if we don't contain them into buckets and things to hold the moisture, they dry.
Which is not hard to do either. Like with the beets, we put them in rubber totes, or like Rubbermaid totes, and put wood shavings around them, and that's all we did, and they're staying great. But it is a little extra step. But we're going to look at that recipe. Because that's intriguing for sure. Any kind of thing you can do like that.
I was very curious because we harvested 500 pounds of squash and we are going through it. But as you start to see them deteriorate on some things, it's nice to have a way to just kind of quickly get them used up into something. And our freezers, unfortunately, are really full. I went and picked up our last ram that we got butchered at the butcher. I picked him up today, and I had to take a couple packs and put him here, and a couple packs and put him here, because there was just no room. We have two big deep freezers, and they were full. So, but at least that's it for. I say that. Then we've got geese that we got to put in there. And, anyways, I have no idea where we're putting all the food.
It's a never-ending cycle.
Yes.
Stuff goes in.
Hello,
stuff
guten
comes out.
Abend. How are you tonight? You owe me a Coke.
No, I'll have water.
You'll have water. I know you're anti-pop, anti-Coke.
We definitely do recommend trying the fries. Any like butternut would do it. Canada crookneck, any of those type of squash, you could make them out of no problem.
Yeah.
And you can use, I think on the video you showed using the neck. The neck's just easier, but you can use the ball too. They just end up being kind of curvy fries.
Exactly.
Which is no.
Oh, and last night for dinner,
Amy. How are you?
we made we took the neck of the Canada crookneck squash, and we made. I've got one of those. What brand is that? Just those Star Fruit. One of those spiralizer things, you know, that you use to make zucchini into noodle type shape. Anyways, we put the squash through that, and then I pan fried it.
Worked really well.
It worked really, really good. So
and is a potentially really good substitute for, because we go down this thing of we want to grow grains, but can we really?
Well, we need to limit how many grains we consume, because there's no way we could grow enough grains for how much we use. So we're trying to find alternatives.
But that goes back to the squash thing again, because if you can make it into pastas and fries and all these other things.
So guess what we're growing more of next year?
But not substantially more.
Probably the same number of plants, but we're hoping to do it in a better way to get more fruit per plant.
So they get looked after.
And I think we're not going to grow our big blue ones this year. Now we harvested 120 pounds almost of our big blue ones.
We're going to try an experiment.
What's the ones that Plowman's? What did you send us? No, not Plowman. Sorry, Angie. What did you send us?
We're going to try those.
We're going to try those ones, but they would cross with our big blue ones. So, as Chris mentioned in the squash video, you can always try different ones. You just got to make sure they're from one of the 4 different families. So,
John was talking about the Delicata Squash.
Yes,
I like them. That was one of those ones where it was like because the Cuber Peppo, it was like, well,
they cross with the zucchini,
the zucchinis and the yellow crooked neck, and I like the yellow crooked neck better. So that was my.
Yeah.
What do you call it? I gave that up.
But if you have the butternut, the bunnies love the peels off the butternut. Yeah. It's funny because we were trying to get them to eat the squash itself.
They'll eat it when it's warmer, but they don't like it when it's colder.
No, but the peelings, they if I put pellets in and then I go and put some peelings in after, they go right through the peelings. They leave the pellets, which is pretty impressive for a rabbit.
That's Honey Badger's already got her elderberry wood stems.
Oh.
That's something I've got to do that, because we found a few plants on the property last year, which was awesome.
So you need to go harvest them now.
Yeah, to get them to do the cloning.
Well,
that's something that I
thank you for the reminder.
Yes,
get on that, Chris. I'm not traipsing to the back.
I'll go right out after this live in the rain.
You can go out with the coyotes.
I'll pass on that.
Also, I'm glad, Bucket List, you're finding some wonderful channels to subscribe to. Honestly,
there's a lot of great channels.
Hello, Hedgehogs Homestead.
So, and like we say, if anybody wants to share links, feel free. We are completely supportive of that, because it's all about learning, and the more connections you have, the more chances you have to learn.
Exactly, and building that community, and just there's so many wonderful things about what we're doing on YouTube, I think, and what everybody's doing. So, and we find wonderful channels as well. It's just awesome. And I'm so glad that people are finding. I know we're Starfrit. There you go. Thank you, Aldan. We're way behind, aren't we?
I think we are. So I'm going to try to Bucket List. Planted some 4 years ago and finally got to harvest them, which is awesome.
I missed them to the birds got them this year. There was quite a few back there,
but they didn't have a lot of fruit on them because they're not. We gotta release them a little bit. Elderberries, I think, is going to potentially be one of our plants of choice this year.
We were going to try and remedy our bad strawberry patch to make a good strawberry patch, and then we just figured we're not ordering, because we had to order them so far ahead, and it just was not like happening. We did amazing with our raspberry patch last year. We bought 150 and got them all planted, and they produced. We got 18 pounds of raspberries.
Keep going with the strawberries we have.
Yeah,
but so we didn't send Remy the squash. So if you
let us know, and we'll pop it into the post.
Oh, and no worries to anybody. Nobody has to apologize for typos.
No, we roll with it. We can get it. Oh, I sent Remy Bama's beans. That's what I did. I sent Bama's beans. Yes, Bama's beans are 40-some-year-old story of my grandmother she received a handful of beans over the fence in her backyard from her Chinese neighbor who did not speak English, and but Bama had watched her grow them for years in her backyard, and so Bama then continued to grow them, and she gave them to me, what, 15 years ago, and then we started growing them. So nobody knows what they're called, so we call them Bama's beans after my grandmother.
And that's how most great varieties of beans come into existence.
But they are, I sent them to you because they're a hardy bean. Like my grandmother's in Manitoba, which would be very similar, I think, zone. And they're great green bean, or if they get a little bit ahead of you and you don't get them picked in time, you can harvest them dry for like chilies and stuff like that. So
yep, Honey Badgers has it perfect. You can only eat the black elderberry. So of the two native species, the red ones are very pretty, but they're bird food only.
Yeah.
I forget exactly what it is about them that makes them unedible, but it's interesting that they're not that distantly related, and one is edible and one is not. And when they're dormant is actually an easy time to tell the difference. At least in Ontario. I don't know if there are other elderberries, so take that for what it's worth, depending on where you are in the world. But the dormant twig on the black elderberry, the buds are very, very, very tiny, whereas the red elderberry, they often say they look like Mickey Mouse ears. They're these big, huge buds off to the side. Should show them on a video because we have both.
This is like what I said to Kendra in her comment today on the video. It's like having a walking, talking Alexa for horticulture and whatever.
Oh,
like anytime we go anywhere, it's like I don't need to have even my tablet or my phone. I'd just be like, what's the answer, Chris? Tell me the answer. He is so full of information.
And it's not all useless.
Yes. We're very interested in the syrup as well. I was going to go back up to John's there about the Yay Anti-Pop. We actually tried the kombucha was a couple weeks ago. I bought a local company was now selling it in our little local town grocery store. And what kind? It was a weird kind, but boy, it was good. I don't know. I think you have a video on making it, don't you? I think so. I do want to figure out how to make it because it was actually really good.
I'm glad Kendra liked the squash videos. We think we're going to do a few more on the squash of cooking it because I think we're all about squash. We actually contemplated doing a squash week, but I don't think we're going to.
We don't want to overwhelm anybody.
People. But I think one of the
Chris has this like squash is going to save the world.
No. Squash is not going to save the world by itself. It has friends.
Oh yes, okay. Who are Squash's friends?
Oh, we'll get to that later.
Okay.
But
that's another video.
That's another whole series of stuff.
Now we're going to tell you about Squash's friends. Do we get to dress up like Muppets for that one?
But I think one of the things that's hard for people with squash is because if they're not used to eating it, they're expensive to buy. It's like, what do you do with it, right? It's like an alien thing, but there's so much. When you grow it yourself, you can experiment, and if it doesn't work out, there's another one to try. So it's not the end of the world. But
I think I had tunnel vision about squash because the only thing I ever thought of with squash was that mashed up mixture you got with turkey dinner, or whatever, like a roast or something. People made like that mashed sweet stuff, and I thought that's all you use it for. I knew pumpkins were pumpkin pie, obviously, but it's like pumpkins. Other than pumpkin pie, what was I going to do with pumpkins when we grow
stuff with pumpkins?
Hundreds of pounds of pumpkins, But
we don't grow pumpkins because the pumpkins all cross with the other squash.
I know we don't.
The substitute for pumpkin.
Yeah.
But me and you acres, you should take a look on your property because I'm going to go out on a limb and bet you probably have some black elderberries somewhere on your property. Just check around the wet area.
I'll bring him and he can go for a walk.
Well, it's just because if you do have them, it's worth
clearing out a bit around them,
releasing them from the other competitors, right? Because they do like a bit more sunlight.
Sleep apnea test. Ooh.
Well, but you know what? I have a couple friends who went through that, and it's good to get it done because if they can fix it, then it's great because you'll notice a huge difference.
Yep.
So not all tests are terrible. Yes, I'm gonna. Hopefully, she does say what she's looking for.
Okay, so she said the kabacha squash, which is that's the one we're gonna grow instead of our big blue ones
this year and see.
So they better be good.
Oh, Guten Yardney says he thinks the Canada crookneck is our new go-to.
Yeah.
Honestly, like we grew
And
butternut.
now wait. Now, when you eat that, does your mind not go to a sweet potato? Maybe not every variety of sweet potato, but you are the sweet potato man. Do you not think that is so similar to a sweet potato? Anyways, we'll come to his answer when we finally get caught up.
So far behind.
I know we are. Get back up to the top instead of worrying about the bottom. Come on.
Oh boy.
Now you've lost where you were.
I didn't do it on purpose.
Okay.
Oh boy. I think we might
the kombucha. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
We are sorry. We are so far behind. We're going to try and go faster here. No more rants.
You can propagate them from cuttings, the elderberries. Yes. I am no expert on it. And I know there's others in here who have actually done it. We're going to give it a try. And I don't believe it's all that hard to do, relatively speaking. Problem is when I scroll down, it goes quick. Good night, Susan. You're probably long gone.
We're terrible. We're so far behind. Yes, there's love this community. Oh gosh, you really just jumped. We apologize if we miss anything.
Hello, Blands.
Holy cow! Coming in. I so did not read any of that. He just went like boom. I'm
speed reading.
Okay, I'm going to go with it that we didn't miss anything.
Well, I want to catch up to. Made a batch. Okay, they made
raspberry vanilla is favorite. Okay,
that's actually something we want to do because we're hoping. Like last year, we got a lot of raspberries off of our raspberries that we planted last year. We're hoping this year we get quite a few again.
So can you make it from frozen fruit?
Or from the juice, maybe. I don't know.
Because we have lots of raspberries in the freezer. I'd be curious. And I have to look for the video.
What's the air velocity of a swallow? Well, it depends. Is it an English one or an African swallow? Or in the case of Ontario, is it a barn swallow, a bank swallow, a purple martin, a tree swallow, cliff swallow, or a northern roughwing swallow? Am I missing any?
Nope.
I think that's all of them.
And believe me, they are so easy to ID from each other.
Swallows are actually not that bad as an introduction to swallows.
I can tell a barn swallow. That's...
you know them all. The two that are the hardest.
We go out birding, and there's like, I don't know, let's just say 800 swallows flying back and forth at speeds a mile out over the water. And to me, they all look like little flies, just and he's like, oh, bank swallow, oh, this, oh, that. And I'm like, they look like little black dogs. I don't know.
Oh,
anyways.
But swallows are useful. Yes, Guten Yardning. Squash tunnel vision is dangerous. I think it is because people miss out, right? When you just think all you can do is like the one thing with it, and it's like they're one of those things for the effort involved, the return on the investment of time, like your actual physical time of having to work on it is phenomenal.
Yeah,
that's my opinion. That one was not my jump on purpose.
Oh my gosh, you get it going. I can't even read it.
Okay, Angie said they had elderberry on the other property, but it was planted. You might be surprised.
You might be able to go and ask them if you can take some clippings.
And the birds might have spread it. Oh, yes, you can see the sweetness of the Canada crookneck right there as the sweet potatoes for sure. They're not the same, and that's you might have missed what we were talking about. I can't remember if it was before you came in or not, but for us, we're still going to grow sweet potatoes, but we think the sweet potatoes are going to become like a second priority crop. We have some plans to keep it going well, but the squash are like a primary producer. It's kind of like permaculture, right? You have your primary stuff or your first order, and then you kind of go from there. So we're kind of starting to view, that's a change, I guess, for 2021 is we're kind of starting to look at the garden a little bit that way of like what we know some of them, but what are the things that it's like, these are absolute must necessities, maybe something everybody should have. Then what are maybe the next level, and then down to
and we've really gone down that line too of picking what is what's the word we use for the animals? They have to be multi-purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's
the more purposes you can get out of anything.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, we say with the squash, parts of it go to the rabbits, parts of it go to the chickens, and we still get to harvest the part that we want. The sorghum, another one that we haven't talked about yet, but we're vamping that up big time this year to see what we can get, because the syrup worked out amazing.
What we got back
The
from
silage for the animals was amazing,
And
and
the
we
grains.
still have tons of the grain product, which we have yet to actually grind up and try to use.
we still
but
have it all.
We have it for planting, and we have fed some to the chickens just to see what their reaction was. So things like that. That's something that we're really kind of tunneling in on for this year, is getting more bang for our buck, so to speak, without spending any money.
Or less money.
Yeah.
But Mike and Angie say, please come to our property and school us.
There we go.
That's funny.
That'll be perfect timing on the May weekend when we are up there for the homesteaders thing. It'll be just perfect time for Chris to go and ID your property.
I must have missed something about plans.
What's that?
Well,
this is you going so quickly.
Oh, well, it jumps all around. I don't know. I've missed it somewhere.
Well, now I can't. I need to have my own here. I need to go back to having my computer running as well.
Oh, there we go. They're dealing with illness over here, but otherwise all is well. Hopefully it's not too bad. I said earlier, and I don't sound too bad now, but I am getting over a cold, an actual old-timey cold. For once. I'm not happy about it, but I'm glad it's a cold and not other stuff. But
yeah.
Okay, frozen is better to use, so there you go.
That would be an awesome video. We should do a video. We go to Ange and Mike's and tour the property, and we'll ID some plants and have fun. It'll be good.
Okay, so honey badgers is shared there. Start by cutting. You have to have last year's growth, and before they start to bud out this year, yeah. Piece with at least 4 nodes, 2 to take root and 2 to leaf out.
Okay,
that makes sense. That's kind of what I remember.
Excellent.
It's amazing how you can clone plants like that.
And John says that you're better to use frozen fruit, so that works awesome. Mm-hmm. So maybe we should try, because we got lots of strawberries and blackberries.
And that's a great thing too, right? Because like raspberries.
So I'm guessing you used a real vanilla bean, probably raspberry and vanilla.
Kendra thinks we're hilarious. And yes, 1, 2, and how long squash store is another. Yes. That's actually a big. I'm gonna go on and on about squash, because squash will change the course of history in the world, which in some ways they did, because when they were introduced from North America into Europe and spread across the quote unquote old world, or whatever you want to call it, they did change the world, unlike their friend the tomato, which we're not going to talk about right now. But the nice part about squash is, summer squash aside, you don't do anything. You just put it in. You might water it occasionally, and then you harvest. When you harvest it, all you have to do is bring it in and store it. You don't have to, like a tomato.
The only real work that I had to do was making sure that the vines initially grew out into the lawn instead of into the garden.
Depending on where you put it, you may have to do that. Okay, so you do elderberries, grape cutting. That's something else we actually need to look into too, because
well, we lost 2 of our grapes. We had 4, and we lost 2 last year. But the other 2
are doing really, really well. So they were only little, I guess you call them sapling type things.
Yeah, probably first or second year type things.
But so we'll definitely look into that again. I think that's a garden thing. Oh, I didn't do it. There we go. We're back. Oh, we're almost caught up. That's a change, not a change, but an addition that we're looking into is, like we said, with the elderberries, we kind of want that to be a focus. We're going to try a few different avenues there, but grapes, like eating grapes, is another one, because we'd like to get a few more in the ground. We'll see if that happens, but that's because last year we spent a lot of effort and resources on our raspberry patch, which we're glad we did. But we may do something similar again to try to get something else going. Yeah. Kind of our one big purchase.
Well, that's the sort of thing, is allocating a bit of a budget to do one main big purchase of something perennial type.
Knowing that you won't have to do that year after year after year after year. Yeah.
Right. And Crucy was amazing enough last year to send us enough horseradish that we will never need horseradish again.
And it did amazing.
And it did amazing. So that's fantastic. So that actually was a bonus. We failed miserably at rhubarb last year. So we're starting from scratch, I think, pretty much, but
which is all right. I like Guten Yardning's comment. That's a really good one because
Mhm.
I think you're right. We all love a good.
Have a good night, John.
We all love a good experiment, right? They are fun and you learn a lot. Um, but you still need to find that balance. And I'm going to say it without going down that road, especially right now with everything that's gone on in the last 2 years and what's probably going to happen in 2022. Uh, Feeding your family is different than the experiments, right? So it's finding a few things that if you do it, I say right, but if you do it right, that you could do that for a reasonable investment. And then the experiments are great because that gives you your variety, right? We need variety in our diets. If you ate the same thing every day, you'd get sick of it. So it's nice to have the staples. It's ways to use those staples differently. But then I think the gardening gets fun and you kind of there's more passionate side to it. Is you can do all those experiments and add
And
to
still-
your repertoire of vegetables and whatnot that you can use to feed yourself.
So he says, yes, real vanilla beans. So I needed real vanilla beans and the raspberries. And we're going to try and make kombucha. To look up.
Kendra and Plowman's backyard
Yes,
as well.
we'll
When we're up
visit
there.
Kendra and Jason as well. Oh, it's going to be a busy weekend. Maybe we'll do it before then. Whoa.
Okay, John went to, there we go. We apologize. It's jumping around a lot for some reason.
Yeah.
So
the
there we
homestead,
go.
Sorry, Cindy was asking where the homestead was, or did somebody already answer that?
Oh,
yeah. It's the Eastern Ontario Homestead Convention. It's in Lanark.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's, May 6th. I don't know.
It'd be quite a drive for you, but
yeah.
no,
But if
not
you
that
can
bad.
combine it with other things or whatever,
It's not too
bad. Yeah.
So we will have to talk to Kendra about grapes because you do have an amazing grape patch.
Mm-hmm.
Vineyard. I don't know what you call it exactly, but if you've got some cuttings, we'll definitely touch base with you because that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm. We'll do some tradesies for something.
And I know we've
chicken for cuttings. Yes, hit the thumbs up. Thank you, Blance. Appreciate that.
Well, and that's another thing about the variety and growing things too, right? Because there's the things you have to grow from seed, and there's the things that you can clone. When you can clone something like potatoes, you can have more variety because they don't cross. So you can have a red one, a blue one, a yellow one, a whatever, right? Just for that variety, which is I'm going to like with Guten Yardning and their sweet potatoes. You've grown a ton of really amazing, interesting sweet potatoes, and they're all different. Like, and you got us. What'd you call it? Not that you got us to try, but we did try a purple, or actually two purple.
We got
varieties,
two. One was purple inside, and it was amazing.
Yes.
The other one was purple outside, and then it had a little bit of variegation of purple inside,
pink,
but mainly it was a whiter
one. But
that one wasn't as good, but the one that was actual purple inside was so sweet. It was so good.
Mm-hmm. And that's I think another thing too, right? Because that's the downside to the squash is you can really only have the 4. Although for those who are in here,
Chris is excited about this, as you can imagine.
There is others, but I found a 5th. I don't think I'll be able to get seeds this year, but I am going to make a point of getting it because if I can have 5 kinds of squash, that's even better.
Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't have 5? Why have 4 when you could have 5?
Yes, like Ren's Homestead is saying, based on yields, it's hard to beat squash.
And she had Eldan banjos.
Well, you could do a lot of other things with them. It's like the gourds, right? I think that's the part too with the sort of quote unquote nomenclature between gourds and squash and pumpkins and all this sort of stuff. It's so confusing because botanically it means nothing, right? You need to know the species because it's like our yellow crookneck squash. They make a gourd.
Well, that's like, isn't in Australia, all of them are pumpkins.
Yeah. So the common name is the part that gets confusing. And I know that's where I lose people, but yeah, you can do a lot.
Chris is going to keep pounding it into everybody's heads that 4 different types of squash grow 4 different ones.
Or 5 if you can find the elusive 5th one. I'll be like the guy from Sesame Street that comes up to Ernie.
They won't need to find it because you'll be the provider.
But I know. I'll be the guy from Sesame Street who always goes up to Ernie. He's like, "Hey, psst, you want to buy an A?" Instead, it'll be Psst, you want to buy a squash? Some squash seeds? I got 5 kinds. for the squash
Oh.
connoisseur. I can't remember exactly how that guy talks, but I remember
I
him
don't.
being funny.
That one sounded a little scary, but he does.
But he does talk that way.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, y'all want to buy a letter?
Have a good night,
A?
Hedgehogs Homestead. Not sure if we've missed you, but
And no worries, bucket list. You have a
Yes.
good night too. We probably missed you. We apologize. And Mike and Angie, good night. Thank you
Yes.
for coming in.
no,
Yeah,
they're
he said,
saying I think you should make the trip out,
Oh.
meaning to come to the conference.
My speed reading didn't work there.
See, so this is where I say if we've missed anything, it's his fault.
Let's see if we can catch up here. Took me 30 years planting wild berries.
My hedgerow to be self. Wow, that's awesome though.
But it's a really good point, because there's a whole nother thing on there. Again, looking at permaculture principles, what you're doing, planting them in the hedgerow. Hedgerows are phenomenal. They're phenomenal for production of things like berries and food. They're also excellent for wildlife and stuff, which can have benefits like birds and things. That's a whole nother I don't know, system. Like you say, it takes time.
Yeah. Oh, it's
no
like
question
I'm
about that.
battling with. This is the one thing that I will spend money on again this year is Saskatoons. I am battling getting Saskatoons growing on this property. We've planted. Oh, we've got it planted close to 15 of them at least, if not more. I know you're reading ahead to the creepiness. I saw that while you're talking. But go back up to Dave's thing again, because it triggered something I wanted to say, and then I.
Well, you're Saskatoons, because in Manitoba that's how they grow.
Because they were all in the hedgerows was the Saskatoons, and we used to just pick them everywhere. And so that's what I had imagined here. But as you said, we're 2 years now planting them, and we've gotten a few berries to eat, but they haven't amounted to much yet.
They're establishing, but that's the problem
Yeah.
with a lot of woody plants.
So
right?
I'm curious as to what other things that you've put into your berry hedgerows. We have a lot of black raspberries, red raspberries, apple trees. Then we found the elderberries last year,
and the wild raisins.
And the wild raisins.
They're actually really good. They've got the big seed in them, but they taste good.
But for like to cook them down to something and strain it out, it works really well.
We still have some in the fridge that are
in
good shape.
Yeah.
Actually.
But anyways, I'm curious as to what you've been kind of pushing into your hedgerows, because we're
you can do a lot non-intensively that way and get a lot of food.
We have a lot of they're not. Are they choke cherries? Like the wild cherries
and the wild grapes.
Yeah.
Because you harvest a lot of wild grapes that way.
Yeah. Like we've
got
got
really
tons
good
of
for
the
eating,
cherries,
but they're good for the jellies and the syrups and stuff.
He kind of gets creepy with the imitations.
But it is a Sesame Street character. I forget his name, but
he is. Yeah, he does. He comes up and he's got a mustache, doesn't he?
He's like, "Psst, hey guy," and Ernie's like, "Who, me?"
Yeah. Chris and the White
selling
Lab
squash seeds. I can see that happening.
Yeah.
I'll have to do a cooking episode in my Swedish chef costume.
Yes, you will.
I went for
You
Halloween.
can make your squash bread in your Swedish chef.
I went for Halloween dressed as a Swedish chef, and I still have the costume. It was a pretty good one. It was epic.
In his mind.
Oh, I think it was epic in a lot of other people's minds too. Chrissy's going to buy 2. He's going to buy two squash seeds from us.
At some point, I have to walk away from them. I think it's just I'm clinging to it because as a child, like I
think they mean you have to stop eating them.
Oh,
I could be wrong.
Well, or just give up on. But I think if we get a few more of them in the area, they will eventually go. I just have to stop watching them. I think that's the thing. I'm watching them, expecting something, and if I just come back in 5 years, I'll be like, "Wow, look at all the Saskatoons."
No, yeah, that's just it. On the squash bugs plants, is it the cucumber type beetle or the vine borer? Out of curiosity, because I'm a little foggy on this, but I know the vine borer doesn't attack all the species, or not equally. Like Cubra maxima, it definitely does, and does quite a bit of damage. I believe
Cubra maxima is which one?
Is like the Hubbard types and 50.
Okay, our big blue ones and that sort of thing. Okay,
but Yeah, for us, it's the big blue squash.
Or the one that Angie's giving us
Yes.
now.
But I'm pretty sure Cuba Peppo and Muscata
It's got the vine borer.
are the vine borer. Okay, so there might be varieties that you can grow and not have to worry about it. You just may not be able to grow the Cuba Maxima type ones. Don't completely quote me on that, but I know like the Canada Crooknecks, for example, that's the I can never pronounce it.
Muscata.
Muscata. They don't get it, or they don't seem to get it. But they do get some of the other bugs, but never enough to.
So that would be
do a
like
lot
your
of damage.
butternut and the
Yeah.
Canada Crookneck, that sort of stuff. Okay. Hey, Cassie.
Yes,
So
Muscata.
yeah,
I'm fairly sure Peppo is as well, though, because I don't think Peppo has enough flesh in it to get.
that's the summer squashes.
Yeah, because I vaguely remember researching that years and years and years and years ago, because we used to get the vine borer too, and we only got it on it was the red curry squash that I was growing at the time, which I liked, but yeah, we kind of passed up on them in the long run. They still survived. It's just you couldn't take it big scale.
So Dave's got black raspberry, black elderberry, high bush cranberry, which I forgot. We found 2 high bush cranberries down in the pit.
2 big ones.
Yeah,
and I released them, and I released them last fall or last winter.
So they had last year growing without,
and it was amazing. Like, for those who don't know what I mean by releasing, it's like if you find a tree or a bush that you want, and it's got competition around it, you don't like clear cut everything, but you can clear around that depending on the size of it so that it gets more light and stuff. And it's amazing when you release something how well
it does all of a sudden.
It can do all of a sudden. You don't get rid of the microclimate, but you get rid of the immediate competition.
Yeah. So we scattered more berries from the high bush cranberry. We scattered them more in that area, hoping that they might take off in future years.
I think they will. They're just a long germination because they need 2 cold dormancies.
Yeah,
which is kind of
so hopefully
crazy.
that will happen. But yeah, but that's good. That's an interesting little mixture.
And hello, Cassie.
I did say that.
This is Cindy Squirrel. We've gone full circle from farm, had an orchard, cherries, a big garden, and fence rows full of different berries. Then big farm, we're all fence rows and orchards or bulldozed. Now we're back. Yeah, no, that's well, we see it in our area because we live in an area where there's quite a mix, right? There is some big farms that there's nothing there but the row crops, which row crops have their place. I will say that. You said hello to Thorhaven, right?
Yep. Now you did too.
Now I did too.
Differential.
Oh yes, the difference. Yes, they are a little bit tough because in our area, so in our immediate area, until you go to an actual city, the European variety is not very common. But if you go into southwestern Ontario, I know the European is a lot more common, especially around settlements. There is a couple of other differences, and I can't think of them right now because I'd have to think about that.
I don't even know. You stumped them!
Well, but there is something about the...
what are you doing?
It's the discs on the... I think there's little discs near the leaf stem or something like that. It'll come back to me. It's one of those things. But I do know from an edible perspective, you don't want the European version. It's not as good tasting, is my understanding. Any good potato?
Oh, that was the other thing I was going to say. Dave Knight there, he'd commented on the potatoes, and I was wondering if he was having trouble getting ordering seed potatoes or something, because he made a comment about he was glad that he'd saved so many potatoes, and I was just wondering if he had gotten some issues with getting more potatoes. That was something that, sorry, if he's still in here, he can let me know, but that was something that mentioned further up and I forgot.
One variety that I guess 2 varieties that we like. We do like Yukon Gold. I know that's pretty standard, but it's a good potato, especially if you like mashed potatoes. I'm gonna steal some of your water, but I'm gonna pour it in my cup.
Yeah, don't want your cooties.
If you can get it, we actually really like the all blue variety. They're pretty productive.
Now, saying that, we couldn't get in. We wanted to add to our
all blues last year.
All blues last year, we couldn't get any. So, But yeah, the potato wise, the all blue is really, really, really nice. And it's funny because they're very, very blue, but then when you cook them, if you boil them, they go kind of, or sorry, no, very, very, very purple. But if you cook them and boil them, they end up going to a bluish color. But roasted, they stay this really, really nice dark purple. They're really quite nice.
Our cat overlord is observing us.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely blends. I mean, there's so many types of squash, right? I know there's different species that are resistant to different things. It's like, I think if I'm not mistaken, Cubro Pepo is fairly Cubro Pepo is fairly affected by like the powdery mildew. Not that they all are.
They'll eventually get it later in the
definitely
season.
One that seems to. So it's like you kind of get rid of one problem and you
well,
get
we often find the summer squashes. You definitely have to plant staggered.
But that's another part too about the 4 species, right? Because you're 4 different species. They're all the same genus, so they're all related. But because they're different, they don't have exactly the same parasite issues, right? So you can grow those 4 together. Whereas if you grew 4 of the same species, then you just don't, they're different because they're different squash that you're getting. But if they're all the same species, they're all the same to the bugs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's another part that I didn't. Thinking about doing a
you're going to do
addendum
2.0
addendum
squash
to the squash
2.0
video, because there is a few things to think about, but I know it's a lot of information in a short. It's hard to get it all into. It's hard to get all the real pertinent information into a short, 10 minutes.
What species were you talking about just now?
The high bush cranberry, the European and the European high bush cranberry and the American high bush cranberry. I do recognize them generally when I see them, but I don't see them enough to have it.
Thanks for sticking with us, Remy.
Hope you have a good night and a good rest of the week.
I think Chris was going to contact about the roundtable stuff for the
next one. Yeah, we'll have to figure that out when we want to do the next one, whether it be maybe next week or the week after.
Well, we weren't sure as to whether to do it on the Tuesday.
I don't know works. If Darren's still here. We were thinking to do the Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Just to replace our this time, but yeah. So
not this time. We'd start at 8:30.
Well, yeah, at 8:30. Our normal live, we would just make it the round table with the 4 of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can explain. Can you explain the best practices rebreeding genetics? For the.
We talking chickens, sheep,
or squash?
Squash,
or all of the above.
We're the same, Dave, with the potatoes.
Sufficient. Yes, well, he's talking about actually saving. Are you saving like potatoes. the actual proper seed,
or just the potato itself to then clone for the next year? We do the potato to clone. We've not actually done from seed potatoes, like trying to start our own. But we always keep, like you say, a third or so. We usually keep 10 to 15 pounds of each type to then replant the next year. We go through and select the best ones that we really want.
And you could adjust that based on how many potatoes you want. But good night, Mike and Angie. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Hopefully you have a good rest of the week as well. And yeah, I forgot you guys were still in here. So Mike knows too. We were thinking of next Tuesday maybe for the next roundtable.
Anyways, Chris, I'll kick him in the butt to get a email out or something, message to everybody about the roundtable. So Kendra would watch a 2.0 squash.
Well, I'm not going to do it right away, but I think I might, because there's a couple little things. But so the genetic stuff. I'm going to start with what I'm going to call the rule of 4, but it doesn't. I'm going to start with animals. I think the rule of 4 is a good one, because looking at, and that's not an official thing, that's an us term, but
we use 4.
There's different ways you can use that rule of 4, and we're going to do some videos on this and explain it more, but I'll say the chickens. If you have 4 roosters and you have 4 lines of hens, even if you actually only have 4, right? The rooster come from the same line as the hens. If you constantly bump them to the next line, so that's 4 years, you'll be 4 generations before it comes back.
You come back.
Which means that you actually have That's great grandparents, right? Or great great
Yeah,
grandparents.
great grandparents.
Great grandparents.
We always do it. So it's the same way that I work the rabbits. I keep 4 lines, four bucks and 4 lines of girls, and I just bump them so that you can have, when I do out a pedigree chart on the rabbits, I don't want any similarities.
Pedigree's different because you can see it and
You can
do
write it all
individual.
down. It's hard with the chickens because they're in groups, but it's the same concept that if you've got 4 roosters to bump over, basically, if I was to actually make a pedigree, like if you paired them like the geese or something else, when you make a pedigree chart, you would have no similarities until the great grandparents.
You can do it with 3, but I'm not gonna say it's harder, but you run. How do I put that? I don't want to say because inbreeding, you run the risk of potentially getting the bad side of inbreeding depression a little greater with the 3 because you're not starting with as much diversity. Now, if you can go even one step further, and let's say you had 4 and 4, and 4 roosters came from 4 different sources than the 4 different hen lines, then you're laughing, right? And the nice part is with the 4, and you can do it with the 3 as well. The 3 you would probably eventually every so often I can never do my fingers in 3, but the 3 you'd probably have to insert.
You'd have to
a new
occasionally
rooster
buy
every
a
now
new
and then,
rooster.
just to keep things on the
We
up
have
and up
that dilemma with the sheep right now because we only have 3 lines
of females.
So we are constantly.
Now you can split, but splitting, I'm not going to say
that gets a little
more complicated depending on what it is, but we're trying to split one of our female lines right now. That doesn't mean we're not still going to potentially get more females.
See, Wren's, I'm skipping 1 2 just for a moment, but see, Wren's Homestead, that's what we always called it clan as well.
Yeah.
But then if you actually go into, I'm going to say it like a breeders group, what we do is not what they call clan.
There's a lot of different terms for a lot of the same things. Like for the chickens, we do pretty much do like the clan mating because we keep. This is kind of a simple version, but the hens always stay with their clan, right? The roosters don't. Excuse me. But you'll also, and this is where the chickens get more complicated too, because in that clan you're going to have diversity as well. Because if you're keeping birds for multiple years, i.e., you don't do an all in and all out, which we don't because we often keep brooding hens and stuff.
Good hens stay.
You're getting even more diversity in there because those hens they're never carbon copies, but they're not all from the same rooster, basically, right? It gets harder.
Have a good night, Kendra.
It gets harder with other things like the rabbits. We still use that rule of 4, but or try as best we can to use the rule of 4. But because we're keeping pedigrees, you can track each individual because you can control it. Now, if you were doing a colony, for example, you'd probably have to go the other route. The problem is they reproduce so fast. I think you could lose control of it. Like the chickens are really only reproducing once a year. You get the odd one that'll breed twice, but whereas the rabbits, you could be 3 or 4 times a year, right? So that's a lot more babies.
Yeah. So basically, and I'm going to come back up to 1 2's thing there, but basically just she's saying, are you tracking the clan by group, male or female? So we always band, for example, with the chickens, on the chicken's right leg is the female line color, and on its left leg is the rooster's color. So when we go to bump them over to the next group, we always make sure that the rooster is not of a same color band as
the hens. And then the hens will always say it's yellow. They have a yellow band. Yeah. All the hens will always be have yellow.
They may have a different dad band. Like some of our our yellow hen line, right now there's 8 hens in our yellows, and some of them are yellow purple and some are yellow blue, and our ones from this year are yellow green. So they've all had different roosters. So now basically what we've done is our orange rooster is now with the yellows, which means he doesn't match any of the band color that's with those yellows. Now, come next year, when he gets bumped and the next one comes in, we will have to either get rid of whichever, basically, if we bring the green rooster in, then we got to get rid of the hens that have the green band. realistically. Now, saying that, there's
And-
so many generations between them.
And I
Is
think
it really going to matter?
This is
Probably
the other
not.
thing, right? Like,
Plus, they're going to be 4 years old.
the base theory is the rule of 4. You're always bumping, right? But the practicality of that may not be that simple. And I think that's where 4 is more forgiving than 3.
Mm-hmm.
4, you have a little bit of play area, because I'm going to say it.
Sorry, as I shook you, shaking the cat.
Sometimes being a little more closely related isn't necessarily the end of the world on something like chickens and rabbits and smaller things.
Yeah.
But if you've only got 3, you don't have as much play area. You don't have as much margin of error.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way to put it. And I think that's why with bigger animals like cows and horses and stuff that live for a very long time, the pedigree is so important, because you want to know, because the margin of error is huge, right? And then the sheep are kind of in the middle, because it's important, because they're only having 2 offspring usually at a time, which is fine. But yeah, you want to try to, I don't know.
Sorry, I was giggling at Ren's Homestead's comment there.
Oh, about the
just keep all the ones with for premium stock.
Well, and I will say this: if you're starting out and you haven't, let's say you've never had birds, even if you set yourself up with the 4 groups as quickly as you can, you're still going to get those kind of calls. It's going to happen.
It takes a couple years to get your flock to,
because
the state that it's.
I don't know if I want to go down this line or not too much, but yeah, it'll take a while to get some of that out. And you may still find it pop up from time to time. Yeah. It happens. Hi, Tracy.
I'm before we keep going, I'm going to go back up to 1-2's comment about the potatoes. So the when you dry out, when you keep the basically the tuber, what you eat, when you keep that to use the following year, you are just cloning the same plant. It's not a seed potato.
Well, no. It's what everybody calls a seed potato, but a potato does actually produce a fruit. It produces a little tiny inedible, actually poisonous fruit, like a tomato,
that you can plant to get fresh new seed potatoes that would be.
But they won't be exactly like the tuber, right? So if you had another variety cross with it, or even if you only had one variety go to seed, they still won't be identical. But they do. I am not an expert in potato breeding.
No.
But I have looked into the theory, and there are multiple ways to basically recreate varieties, or create new varieties, or refresh. That's the best way to put it, refresh. Because in theory, over time, because a lot of the potato viruses and whatnot are soil-borne, if you save and save and save and save and save, you will probably end up with that deteriorating over time. Now, I don't know. I am going to say this because I don't know. That's what they definitively have proven for large scale production. It will go down, but that's at a big scale where a little bit of virus can make a big difference. On a homestead scale, I don't know if
you just have to be careful what you're.
Well, if you're rotating and you're not putting too much, organic matter into the soil and stuff, to doing things that minimize it, which we've not always been perfect at, but if you're doing things to minimize it, because you're not growing in the same volume, I don't actually know the answer to that, whether you need to worry about it. I suspect that you could keep cloning a variety forever if you did it well, but I can't confirm that.
But the nice thing about buying those seed potatoes that they sell in the store occasionally is it does put in some new. They're not going to be. Well, I guess they're still going to be clones though.
They're still clones.
Yeah.
But you're getting something that produces the same exact.
So she says again, the answer is never a simple answer, Chris.
No, it isn't really.
And don't get him started on Squirrel Dave.
But the thing of it is, I could answer it simply, and the simple answer would be from the big producers, you can't do it. You can only keep a variety for, I think it's like 5 to 7 years before
they have to grow new
refresh. Which is why there are potato growing facilities in Canada. New Liskeard has one, and I know there's a couple others where they basically it's sterile, and they even go into tissue culture and stuff to keep it sterile. That's one way to look at it. I guess the reality is somewhere in the gray area in the middle, and that's the problem.
Fun facts with Chris. So going back up to, I was going to say we'll touch Tracy's there for a second here with the glad you enjoyed the squash video. Chris was like super stoked about that one. So we're really, really, really pleased with the feedback we've gotten on that because it's something that's very, he's a stickler on it. I don't know, you're passionate about it.
Well,
And passionate about helping people understand it.
That was nice to actually have the value, the weight of what we produced, and then equate that. I think I kind of said this already, but equate that to a value per pound of grocery store value, and look at how much it costs to buy seeds. Because realistically, I will say this: even if you bought seeds every single year, those 4 varieties, you're still saving $10,000.
I think the most interesting.
10 years,
I think the most important point in that whole video for people to take away from it, especially because you're gonna have to take your cat. She's just being really clingy. She's very warm.
To put her up.
But I think one of the most important facts to take away from that video was, as you said, the 4 different types and the fact that those 4 will not cross, which means you can save your seeds forever and never lose the quality of that product.
Once you find something that you really, really, really like.
You can still change between types. It's like if people want to try the Canada Crookneck and then they don't like it, well, try a butternut, see if you like it. Try it, there's that sort of thing. But it is definitely one of those, I think that was the main, it wasn't even about the money. It was more about that. Chris is very passionate about seed saving and getting people to understand that there are easy ways to save seeds, and you should never have to buy seeds.
But
not never. No, I know, but
it's not that you don't have to buy seeds. But if you had never gardened before, and you took that information on the squash, and you learned about it, and I've had conversations till I'm blue in the face with friends, like people that I've known before we started YouTube, where they're just like, yeah, it's not important. It's not important. It's not important. It's like, but it is important.
$5.99. Wow.
And basically it's like, there you go. There's the proof. Why is it important? Because if you don't think it's important, that by doing that, you could save $10,000 in 10 years. Plus, what's 20 times 10?
Oh, really?
I can't do mental math.
200.
So you'd have an extra $200 in the seeds. So $10,200. Like, I don't know. There's
ask him about
layers.
Biology, things like that. We're good. Ask him to add or multiply, and we're in trouble.
I am going to go back to Dave's comment about the squirrel because the squirrel is good. We have some around here. I've often thought about it. We don't have.
There's a lot of big black and gray ones that have started coming. They must be out of nuts.
There's not a lot of them.
Okay, well maybe not, but there's still a few
definitely,
that could go.
Definitely have eaten it. I don't know. I have some mixed feelings. I used to be quite an avid hunter. I have mixed feelings about it now because it's still good skills. It's still healthy, and there's a lot of pros to it, but. It has to be based on a lot of rules or the animals suffer. And I think that's the part that as things become unstable, it's like we could eradicate black squirrels and gray squirrels. It's been done. If everybody turned to eating them, there wouldn't be any more, right? Where that's my thing about the raising it, if you can.
Yeah.
But as a supplement, totally for it. That's a bigger discussion because there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, but I still think it's.
As honey badgers would say, there's no simple answer with Chris. So.
No, there isn't. I have my reasons for why I'm think that, but
yeah.
Well, that's another thing. Yeah, we didn't even talk about like pet food because we even use it in our cat food.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, it's not a massive component, but we do mix it in, and we actually have one cat that likes eating it. Like all you have to do is cook it.
Yeah.
and she'll eat it.
She'll just eat it out of the bowl
and like purposely love it. So there's.
Well, and it's like same thing about the cat making our own pet food. Like we have 8 cats, and
we probably don't need 8 cats.
No, we don't. But we do use all of our excess, the lesser meat products that we don't want to eat, the fat, the sinewy parts, things like that. We just grind it into cat food, along with the squash. We did sweet potatoes as well into the cat food.
But we did with the sweet potatoes. What we did, and this was a real saver too. We took You
All those
basically,
little horrible ones.
yeah, that are kind of broken up,
Catnap, yeah.
whatever's, and we boiled it, right?
Yeah.
And then we pureed it, like drained it, and then pureed it, and they had no problem with it. It's stuff
All
you.
squirrels matter.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I straddle this line between on one side of
You?
the
No.
well, on one side of the fence. In my history as a biologist, I've been told I'm a tree hugger and a hippie, and now you just care about birds and this, that, and whatever. And on the flip side of it, it's like we eat a lot of animals and we process those animals ourselves, and so it's like it's this weird. People have a hard time understanding that because
Yeah.
it's like you don't fit either mold, right? But then I'll say things. It's like my views on coyotes, which I know are not always super popular. My thought is based on my experiences. If they're not causing a problem, they're why bother getting rid of them? Different story if you want the pelt. If you're going to take the pelt and use it, that's different. But to just get rid of them or any predator, because I mean, look at the attitudes between to owls. When my grandfather was farming, when they had a dairy farm, owls and birds of prey were basically there was no seasons, no restrictions. You could shoot them at any point just because you felt like it. And look at where we are now with our understanding of birds of prey, like complete 180 for most people. That being said, do birds of prey occasionally take livestock? They do.
Yes.
But there's also a lot of things you can do to
Prevent it.
minimize it. And when you get a problem, that's a different story.
The wood bison, there you go. Yep. Extinct 10 years after.
Yeah.
Yeah. Humans can do a lot of damage. That's for sure.
Well, and that's my thing, because right now, like in Ontario, and I know Ren's Homestead said they don't have a squirrel season. But like in Ontario, we do have one. It's regulated, everything else. But then this is like that balance, right? It's regulated, no different than white-tailed deer. It's regulated for a reason, because you, just like Dave said, you hypothetically could eradicate them if everybody just had at it. And actually, there's some interesting stories. I don't know, this is a digression, but if anybody's followed the reintroduction of the trumpeter swan, there was a point when we're talking about prices at the turn of the 19th century that, and people don't remember this, but swan, like at the turn of the 19th century, duck and goose and swan hunting was a big thing, because especially in our area around the St. Lawrence River and the Great Lakes, because rail allowed the meat to be transported to places like New York City and bigger cities, right, to feed populations there. So market hunting was big, and that's when a lot of the wooden decoys and stuff come from. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I think I did some research at one point. Like a pair of ducks was like 50 cents, I think is what you got for them, of most ducks. A pair of canvasbacks, which was considered really good eating, was 75 cents. I don't remember what a goose was, but a swan was $2. This is back.
Which is a lot.
That's a lot. So it was the point when a swan showed up, everybody went out to get it. And, it wasn't long after that the trumpeter swan in particular ended up very reduced down to a population. I think there was a point where there was less than a couple hundred of them. They would have suffered. They did suffer from inbreeding depression and all the things we look at in their livestock. And now they are back, but it's rules that allowed that. Otherwise, they'd be gone. That's my doomy digression for the moment. I think I missed some comments, so I'm going to go back up. The squirrel one. Rail meat and hunt. Yeah, it's a catch-22. Like hunting to supplement, I think does make sense, especially all depending on your situation. So I'm by no means saying it's bad to hunt. No means saying. I'm just saying when you watch some prepping channels, I'm going to say this right now, it's like that's not necessarily a solution to some other problems.
Yeah.
That's a supplement. Great. Depending where you are. But depending where you are, it's not the solution.
No.
Because if everybody from Toronto started hunting squirrels, there'd be no squirrels. Cat math.
They'd have to eat raccoons.
Ugh. That's one thing I'm not super. I've heard it's good, but no.
Predators have a job, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing. It's always balanced systems, right? Molds are boring. Creating the coyotes, basically evolution in progress. Oh yeah, when you get into that, I won't go down that road, but it gets real complicated.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like, sorry, as Chrissy's saying about the pricing, we haven't really noticed anything crazy here.
No, it's been more, well, oil is the one we talk about. Oil
Yeah,
prices,
like cooking
not
oil.
like cooking oil, has gone up a lot.
Things that come from, well, they're not coming from else. I don't know. I don't know if it's just because where we sit on the system for delivery or something like that, but it really, like, I've not noticed any shortages. And I haven't noticed a lot of price hikes except for on a couple things. Now, saying that, I'm noticing less sales. Like the sales don't seem as good either.
No, they don't have them as often.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we're a little buffered from it. We don't shop often in Kingston. We tend to go to Brockville more than Kingston, but it's still on that same kind of route there.
Or the last couple of weeks, we haven't even gone that
No,
far.
we've just done our little local shop.
I'm still going to go back because I did. You talked about it, but what Honey Badgers was saying about the price of squash, that's crazy.
Yeah.
When you start getting into those type of dollars, so $5.99 a pound times whatever we did,
500 and some pounds
times 10 is what? A lot.
$30,000.
So you'd save $30,000 if you grew squash.
And it's only going to get more expensive.
Well, that's, I think, the other hidden message in there. But do people farm swans? They do. Well, I wouldn't say they farm them. They do raise them as ornamental birds. Historically, people like the mute swans, the royalty of England, they own them all and they did eat them. But they don't reproduce as fast as other fowl. They take longer to produce. Could one discern the existence of Sasquatch by gaps in predicted genetic diversity of squirrels? I have no idea.
No idea. Sorry, the swan one, if you raise your own swans, can you butcher them?
You can. Well,
you don't have to be in a season.
No, if you own them.
Yeah.
But Honey Badgers is right. Depending on the type of, there's different species of swans.
Yeah.
Depending on the species, you do have to have a license because they don't want people just going out and catching them, basically.
Yeah. No,
and that's just swans. Right? It's like everything, right? You have to have a license to have Canada geese. You can do it, but you have to have a license and they have to be produced in captivity. It'd be a race to hunt and dehydrate as many squirrels as you can before they go extinct.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and that's I think this whole notion of sustainable. I think that's my point. If human populations keep getting bigger, and I'm saying that generically, the wild populations of things can't support the pressure. It's not that we can't still, and in Canada we
tap into it a little bit.
And in Canada we sit relatively pretty as far as we have a ton of resources as far as wildlife goes.
Yes, but not near your main areas that people would branch out from. Like, yes, if you could fly up north to hunt moose every year, you could feed your family.
But it gives you more than your family.
Well, but I'm just saying, if you can't, like, say for a crisis, if I'm assuming it's a crisis situation, if we're all eating squirrel, you're not flying somewhere that the animals are anymore. So you're decimating whatever is within reach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, also true. I think I jumped again. I hate it when it does this jump. From my house on Lake Erie is called Pigeon Bay after the.
Yeah, well, that's
that makes sense. Well, that's another one, right? That just unregulated harvesting. I shouldn't say unregulated, but harvesting without a thought that there would never be more. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the part about the homesteading scale of raising your own food. I'm not even going to say industrial side scale, but it's like, it's that renewal. If you've got that renewal. Have a good night,
Billy Lee. Thanks for coming, hanging out with us.
If you've got that renewal, say of chickens, if you set up your rule of 4 and you've got your chickens and you can keep producing chickens and you can keep producing chickens, it doesn't matter because you're going to take what you need and keep what you need to keep it going and keep producing chickens. So it just keeps chugging along. But yeah.
And you hope that in a crisis situation, people see the value of what you do and don't just take it all.
Well, That's a whole other thing. We won't go down that line, but
Night, Eldan. Have a good night.
we'll probably end up soon here. We're gonna get to the end.
Prices
and
here are
see.
very high for produce. Yeah, definitely sounds that way. Like I say, I mean, I really haven't even. We had a little stint there right at the beginning of January, like in the new year when everything was supposed to go up. Things went up a bit, and then they really haven't.
But it's like Chrissy's saying.
It depends where you are.
Depends where you are. Grocery stores are chains that, for the most part, are looking at their market and what they can get to, right? And then I know it gets complicated, but you can't really trace it. That's the problem. There's no real transparency. You're only getting what you're told.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, prices have gone up because fuel's gone up, or labor's gone up, or access to it's gone up, or a boat sank, or a port's closed, but you don't really know.
Shrinkflation, yeah, definitely. Packaging, it's getting smaller amounts. That's very true.
Shrinkflation.
That's been happening for
forever,
ages,
but it's
though.
getting worse.
Yeah,
that's one thing actually we've never touched on. But when we have like our poundage of chicken, and you look at it, and I forget what we produced for chicken this year. We don't have it right in front of us, but
no,
you say we produced 100 pounds of chicken, deboned chicken. That's actually pretty good. But the point
I'm not sure where you're going.
The point I'm trying to make is when we look at a weight of the stuff that we produce, it's that weight. So it looks like less, i.e. the chicken breast you buy in the grocery store might be X big, but it's full of water. So you're getting water weight. Down. Then it cooks down and it's this big. And people, whereas ours don't do that because it's exactly what it was, right? There was no extra stuff done to it to make it appear like it's more than what it was. Yeah. Which goes into the shrinkflation part too. But that is pretty crazy that food is going high as what you're seeing. That certainly.
So now the cheesies thing. Now, just out of curiosity, and I only heard a little tidbit of this on the radio today as I was driving back from picking up rabbit food. That something had gone on with Doritos. They were saying that was the next thing. Doritos and anything made by whatever company's Doritos. I don't know. We don't eat Doritos. Frito, maybe is that the same company as Cheesies? Anyways, there was something on the news about that. Was like. They were talking about people were hoarding toilet paper the first round. Then they were and then now apparently it is Doritos and things. Who knows? So, anyways, I'm wondering if it's something to do with because if it's going to $5 a bag, that's crazy.
But when you don't know when you can't see what's going on behind the scenes, that's any narrative. Mm-hmm. It's groceries, but it's any narrative they want to give you. Mm-hmm. And the they is not a person. The they is an entity or entities, as per usual.
That sounds really, really icky. Crucy. Ugh. Yuck.
I was looking up at
hey Caitlin.
I was looking up at Ren's Homestead, the comment about could be more conservative.
Just do a leg
and let them free.
Watch it hobble along.
If only animals were a bit more like plants that way. Just break off what you want and
it grows back.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Cannabis is cheaper now than in the 70s.
There may be a reason for that.
Yeah.
Because if people aren't thinking about stuff.
Yeah. I need to get not that I need to, but we have how to word this.
The property came with
some. And so obviously we'd never grown it before. So I let it go to seed. I didn't contain it, didn't do anything because it was growing in the grass.
We found out chickens like it.
The chickens love it. The sheep eat it, but I've got to learn how to do something with it.
We actually looked at trying to make the fiber out of it, but it didn't really seem like it was going to work.
Well, and it wasn't super great.
It was like the return on the investment, right? It's far easier to make fiber out of the sheep than it was to make it out of the...
I'm really curious as to whether you can consume it. Like, does it matter? Like, can you treat it like a garden? I mean, obviously people eat it.
I don't know.
Or something. I don't know. Anyways, right now we're using it as animal feed.
Not...
No. Not like, but I mean, it's one of those.
They're eating it.
They're eating. It's not like we go. Well, other than the cats, we cut it down. The cats like it like catnip. But anyways, I'm just curious as to whether there's anything you can do with the plants. Like
Tracy's got it right. It's false information to boost sales.
yeah, maybe.
I'm going to say it's not even necessarily false. And maybe someday I'll sound hypocritical, but I think anybody who gets to the point of having real power or accumulated wealth has probably done something questionable at some point to get there. Not necessarily saying it's illegal, whatever, but it's, it could be a minor ethical thing. I don't think it's always the case, but
yeah,
there's rewards there.
So Cassie's got Fritos is in a dispute with Loblaws. Apparently, that's the problem.
Okay.
So yeah. Anyways, I heard the little tidbit on the thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the next crisis that we don't have potato chips.
Says brownies.
Hello, Mark Reynolds. How are you? You're hoarding seeds. We're terrible at that. Seeds that we save at least. But
having a lot of seeds is a good thing, right? Because I don't know. We say this all the time from a prepping perspective, which prepping and homesteading on the seed side of things, vegetables go hand in hand. But you can have a massive seed collection, but have never grown anything, or you can constantly replenish it, have the skills to grow that thing, and replenish your seed stock, and still have a massive seed hoard. Like our seed hoard is ridiculous. We just keep collecting squash seeds and things far beyond what we actually need. But it's like, why not? Because if you don't use it in 5 or 6 or 2 or 3 years, feed it to the chickens. It's completely fine. You've preserved it. Yeah. And you're going to get just as much next year, likely.
See, Urban Homestead is saying brownies, but these, from what I understand, once they go to seed, it's not usable that way. But I'm just curious as to whether there's something that can be done with them, because we've tried to eradicate it. It doesn't seem to work.
Well,
and so we may have less of it this year because the chickens ate so much of the seed and we took parts off. But anyway,
I think Crucy's got an interesting thing about the cereal aisle. One thing that I found was interesting when they were talking about, I don't know whether it actually did or not, but it was like the rolled oats were supposed to go up in price.
Yeah.
I don't know. We haven't looked, so I don't know if they did or not. But it's kind of one of those things I don't really understand completely why. I'll say it, given the volume of that volume of a lot of these grains that Canada produces. And I will say it too. I think for a lot of us, growing grains on a scale that we can actually do much with it is probably outside of our capabilities, whether it's, I shouldn't say capability, but resources to do so, because it takes a lot. So grains are kind of that one thing that does make sense to have a bigger scale production. But
Brent's Homestead, you're funny.
All the three-legged squirrels in the forest. That's too funny.
It'll affect the production rates. Eventually, you'll still be the demise of the squirrel. We did see that video by him as well, honey badgers. I mean, kind of sketchy.
Well,
but he never really. I didn't see anything venturing into it further,
you'd never know.
And the hypothetical scenarios that you kind of come up with didn't really pan out. So
that's, I think, we're trying. So I'm going to say this: we're getting to the end of our chat. We're not going to go too deep into the weeds here, but I will say this: we're aware of a lot more than maybe we portray. I'm sure, like Honey Badgers is in a lot of lives and stuff where we do talk about it, but we're aware of a lot of stuff. We have no idea, though. We're aware that there's stuff going on, but none of us really know what exactly, right? And your example about Canadian Prepper is a great one, right? He's not ever going to know the answer to that. He was contacted as a business. But there's enough going on, and I think most of us see it, no matter which country we're in or where we are in the world, that trying to be a little less consumer orientated is not a bad idea. Hence why we put out the squash video, because it was a good bombshell example of, you can, if you do this, and this, here's the return. and there's hundreds of pounds less dependent you are on the grocery store.
And
not that food is the be all and end all, but
well, and I'll be honest. I mean, I went to, I think I don't remember exactly, but I think Canadian Prepper went right to the truckers thing in his life, because at that point it was still, but my mind went straight to the Russia stuff that they were stockpiling to send or something.
Well,
but
that's just it. You'll never know the answer. Right?
No.
And we can definitely speculate a lot, but I think the part that us as the common folk can speculate the most on is nobody's really coming to help us. So we still have a little bit of time to get some things in order. And
well, all I have to say is I better get my own bunker, because I know that Justin's got a bunker and I'm not invited.
Well, that's
basically the gist of it.
Canadians in the 70s were better. Okay, so you can actually make it from the plant. We did some research on that and got kind of conflict. Well, there's ton when you don't know where to start. And this is going to sound funny from somebody who's whatever about plants, but when you don't really know where to start, there's a lot of conflicting information. But I assumed you could make it from the plant as well. I just figured it was less concentration. But if you're making it into like the oils and stuff, we kind of figured you probably could. So we may.
I think that's what we're going to, because we're not getting rid of it as much as we try. So it is kind of one of those things, is there something we can do with it? Because we know as far as an actual like.
And I forgot to say too, Mark, thank you for coming in.
That's awesome. We're glad that you made it to one of the live. But yeah, the plant, once I guess it goes to seed, is not good for, not that we don't use it that way, but I just wondered if there was something we could do with it.
And honey,
so maybe we'll try doing the oils.
That's a great point. That's where they're at. What's really going on? You never really do. And it's funny, I will say this, it's funny in an age when so many things are recorded, like there's video of it. I.e., I'm not going to go down that road, but I'm sure everybody
here watched the videos that were out there about the lady and the horse.
Yes, and what was portrayed on.
Then we watched the CBC the next morning,
and it was like the same footage, but they cut out the part. It's just like, really?
They totally just like. I mean, anybody who watched the video last night knows what was supposed to be in the video. And anyway, don't get me started on it. It's not that I am against the fact that, okay, you want to sort a situation, but you have to sort it properly. And I don't think it was sorted properly.
No. I think we'll have to look into 1-2's, it's called...
Yeah, I was going to write that down.
Plant. Okay. Yeah, we'll look into that, because it's just another thing, right?
Well, it's something, it's like we have... Chris's favorite thing is to say to me is if it grows like a weed, that's the kind of plants that we want.
It's true.
And that sucker is a weed. That's a menace. So I need to find a use for it, because I'm not getting rid of it.
And yes, I do think Honey Badgers is right. We're all peasants now. And, well, I don't know. I think we probably were for a very long time. We just thought we weren't. The greater we, not we, but like the greater we of just.
But I want to be a princess, not a peasant.
Peasant princess.
There we are.
A farming princess.
Yeah, there we are. Bunkers, yeah.
Well, that's the part, like Honey Badgers is saying, that's the part we'd like to try to tap into a bit.
Yeah, well, that's what I wondered if you. I just didn't want to cause it. I didn't want it to be a. Like I say, I have no experience, like neither of us have any experience with this plant. So it's kind of one of those, and there's so much mixed information out there when you try and look up what to do with it, what to not do with it. And I'll be honest, I'm not going to get rid of all the male plants and blah, blah. That's just not possible in our situation. So I need to find a use for it as the plant that it is, which is basically a weed. It's kind of like, I assume it's sort of similar to stinging nettle or something else like that. You're just going to dry it and make a tea.
Good night, Tracy. Thanks for coming in. We're, like I say, I think we're winding down. So thank you for sticking with us.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Caitlin. eventually the truth always comes out, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. That's just a inevitability, and it doesn't have to be big world. That's anything.
Well, and I think that's the one thing that we always talk about here is that, you always say you're preaching to the, what is it you said?
Converted.
The converted. We all know things we should be doing. We're all trying our best to do them and figure out ways to move forward with doing them. And I think that's like all we can do.
And my thing right now, and this is again going to the people who are still in here with hanging in with us till the end, from a channel perspective, like I'm all for discussing stuff, but from a channel perspective, because we started to document, but we want to teach people stuff. I'd like to try to spin some of the positives. It's like, you can do this. You can do these things. Because I think sometimes the negative narrative, and I'm the one that coins the phrase impending doom, but I kind of say it funny now. Funnily.
Now you're making up your own language.
But it's true. Impending doom. It's coming. It's always coming. But in some form or another. But it's like, but there are things you can do, and I'm going to pick on the YouTube prepper community a little bit. I find sometimes because you use Canada Prepper, and he says it right there, or he's not a prepper, but the one we started watching. He's in BC on the mountain, just building his own.
Curtis Stone.
Curtis Stone. And Curtis has a whole bunch of really good information about growing food, but he even said it. So you have two bigger channels saying, yeah, but our stuff that's most popular is the stuff that is like talking about our thoughts on it and not speculations, but like those kind of videos, as opposed to the here's what you can actually do to help yourself. And I'd like to avoid falling into that trap.
Yeah.
And keep true to here's the stuff that will actually help you. When we kind of know it isn't going to be quote unquote internet popular, because
but that's not why we do what we do. So we just like to share our information and feed off other people too. I think it's a great YouTube is a great tool in that sense. I mean, doing these lives and getting into discussions with people gives you such a good tool for just, even if it's not an actual exchange, there's a morale. Like it just is. Talking to other similar like-minded people just keeps you going, keeps you motivated, keeps you being like, I am on the right track. But
Chrissy's got a good point too. There's a lot of people that they want help rather than to figure it out themselves. And we were talking about this in another live at one point. That's with the realization that there are a million different realities for people. So we don't want to make a generalization that it's like, oh, if you don't grow squash, then what the heck are you doing? That is not the point we're trying to make. We're just trying to make the point that it's like, if you have a little bit, if you own some property or you have access to something,
try it.
Think about it, because you could, and that's just one thing, right?
Or the other fact is, I know we get a little bit tunnel vision on the building our little bubble here, but it's still that fact of in a crisis situation or whatever, you're not just going to feed yourself. And that's where the squash, things like that, can also come in helpful.
You may need an ability to increase capacity.
Well,
be independent, but also increase capacity of your production if you had to. Which is another reason why we have the sheep and we don't have cows, because we couldn't do that with the cows, but we could do that with the sheep.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in that video.
Yeah, because he's saying about the cannabis for the animals too. So I'll tell you what, our sheep like it. I don't know if your sheep eat it, but our sheep like it, and our cats love it.
Dried.
The cats love it, like catnip.
They almost like it better, and they're weird because they don't overeat on it. They just eat what they like and then they stop, which is. They know moderation. Making videos.
We kind of hummed and hawed about that, Caitlin. I mean, and I know there's a lot of people. I mean, I'm going to pick on Living Traditions for a moment. They don't show nearly what they actually, and they even say that in some of their videos that they talk about it, because they are kind of avid prepper type people. But I think for us, the value of showing your ability, I think, is important. I really hope that, when it comes, Why is your cat so annoying? Ah,
Oh, she's trying to be
just
cute.
go. But I think showing, I don't know. I'm being delusional because in my mind, I just think in a situation, if it comes around, I really hope all of our neighbors recognize the importance of us to the community, because none of them are going to be able to raise the animals. So if we don't keep it going, we can't feed the community. And not that that's our intention to feed the community, but we also know that it could develop to be that way. And I think that's a great mindset to have. I don't mind being the community feeder, to a point. But anyways, that's that prepping mindset for us, where we do feel that inevitably it's coming. And that's where we've talked about this year, having at the end of the lane our and I keep going back to Flower Folk Farms. She does it. It's a thing that you can go to their website. It's a proper give what you can, take what you need type food exchange that you can set up at the end of your lane. And we were thinking that this year that would be very probably invaluable to a lot of members of our community, because I'm going to say it. I mean, our community, I'm trying to think of if there's anybody that has a garden.
Not very many.
So, I mean, it may be something that helps people see the value in what we're doing here.
I like Ren's Homestead's next idea for our,
I did see that.
Our video, 10 social problems and their solutions.
Yeah.
Squash. The world is doomed. How do you fix doomedness of the world? With squash. Go grow squash.
Yeah, do it now. One cat goes, funny. Another one comes.
Yep. Cat number 2 of X.
Let's just take her off.
Cats have no shame. That's too funny. Yeah, very long lasting, very little work, and high production. Yeah,
exactly what Canadian Prepper says it too. And I guess maybe as you get, she's coming back. It's got to be time to eat. They're all coming. It's time for food.
I think I'm going to say it. What I think, because Chrissy put it pretty well. The one when you've got the drama that gets interest. I think that doesn't give you longevity though, because you can grow real quick, but you've always got to have more drama, right? Once you start going down that line. And I don't think we have that. We don't have very little drama, but at the same time, and I mean, everybody who's in here right now is kind of a testament to that. It's like you guys continue to follow along with us, so we must be at least interesting. If nothing else.
Hickory Squash Farm. Oh, that's funny. But yeah, see, others do it. The eggs, maple syrup, exactly. And I want to kind of, I want to do a video on it, and I want to do, I need to go back to watch Flower Folk Farms video to get the name of the website and all the details on it. But it's something that I think would be very useful to start kind of putting it out there into the community.
It's another balancing, right? Because you're doing what you can. I think that's a big part of it too.
Exactly.
Because I will say this is the doomy side of me coming into play. But it's one thing to do like the stand with like vegetables, or like you said, maple syrup, or not that maple syrup's easy to produce, but
sometimes you can have abundance.
Yeah, that you could have an abundance.
It's not a guaranteed that's the thing. We thought about doing a roadside stands and selling stuff and that, but then that becomes pressure on you as a farm, because you're basically trying to turn it into a business. Even if you're just selling the little bit extra, eventually people start to expect it to be there, and then you've got to produce more so that you have some to go there, and it just escalates and escalates. Where I think the idea of doing a give and take, we said even if there are other gardeners in the area, they could bring stuff to put on the table that they had as well. It's, anyways, I think it would be kind of
see how it goes.
Yeah, squash is the new kale.
Kale is also one of squash's many superfood friends.
Yes. Oh gosh, here comes the superfood.
That's what we'll call it. Instead of like the super friends, it's the superfoods. But it's not what you think. It's the superfoods that are going to save the world.
That one doesn't work as much for me.
Kale?
No, you're titling there.
Well, we'll work on that.
Yeah, we'll work on the titling, but I think there's
hello,
definitely
Deborah.
a few of them that come into play though, and I think we'll keep
That are
going
big,
with some of these, because I think that was the one thing about Chris's squash video that really put it into simple terms for people to be like, holy, when you say it that way, wow, right? Like I can grow. I mean, we've kind of gauged it on the average family of 4 needs between 6 and 8,000 pounds of food a year. And we managed to grow 3,155 this year, which is pretty awesome. Grow, forage, that sort of stuff. But it is when you start kind of looking at how much you need to eat and start figuring out how you're going to get that.
Well, I think that's a big thing is, again, preaching to the converted, but a lot of people have no idea how much it takes. And I'm not saying how much it takes to feed a person who eats way more than they probably should. I'm just talking a person, period, for a year. It takes a lot. It takes a lot.
Yeah.
Like when you start breaking down like an entire flock of chickens, for example, I don't know, a human is bigger, but they eat nothing compared to us.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
Yeah.
But that's where I say it's usually not the animals that are the problem. But
far too much work to make it a profit thing. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of time and a lot of...
Definitely an excellent point too on the different syrups and stuff. Like everybody goes to maple, for sugar maples, maple syrup. But depending on what you have, yeah, you can totally do it with birch. I have heard the black walnut and butternut even, depending on where you are.
We had somebody gave us a little thing of butternut.
And the butternut was really good.
Yeah.
But I've heard the black walnut's pretty good too.
Yeah. We watched it was somebody out in Eastern Canada did a video on, and not the same process at all, but they did the shagbark hickory syrup, and you have to add sugar and stuff to that. But we have tons of hickory trees, so we've kind of thought maybe about trying that.
Yeah, the only problem with that one is you have to peel the bark off. I don't know.
I know.
Like you said, you're adding sugar, so I mean, if you've got the
could be worth trying, but it'd be very small scale.
I think we overthink what we need. You mean do you mean like volume or variety or both? Or I'm kind of curious what like, because we did that one video, I think we linked it in the last one, and that was what we found, like statistically what the average North American was eating, which still seemed really high by world standards, because there's some countries where people, and not countries that have famines or wars or like other social things that are causing it per se, but more like resource based, where they just aren't eating as much.
Well, and you have to also remember that includes milk, dairy, like it includes beverage as well. So that makes a big difference, because milk is a huge weight. Just 1 cup. If you have to drink 8 cups of milk a day, not that I do, not that any of us do, but hypothetically, you do have a lot of weight in beverage as well.
Well, that's awesome that you have a good point on the excuse me, on the syrup. I kind of didn't think about that with the nuts, but that does make sense.
Yeah.
But also really interesting, Ren's Homestead, that you have 2 large English walnuts. That's pretty cool. That's actually really cool, because that's a long-term thing.
Yeah.
To have them. So do you actually harvest nuts from them? Just out of complete curiosity, because I know they're one of the better eating nuts.
We
and the maple syrup mafia. Really? Oh, I guess I have heard about that a little bit. I think Ontario is a little more open, but that's, I am going to say it. If, how do I put it without saying it outright? Not having the ability to do things is something that we've really, on the feeding yourself or supporting yourself side of things in Canada, is kind of there for a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I'm gonna leave it at that and be real vague.
Well, I'm looking at one too. Definitely, I think that's one of the things is like you could survive off of a lot less. Like we kind of worked it out for ourselves, and with our family of 4, we find that we are about 15 to 16 pounds of food a day. Now I didn't factor in beverages on that. But that is,
Well, you factored in milk, but not other
no.
beverages. I thought you did factor in milk.
Did I factor in milk? I can't remember. I'd have to go through it all again. But it's certainly doable, like you're saying there, and we kind of
Mhm.
probably have more than we actually need. But at the
I'm
same
actually
time,
gonna.
if you can have more than you need,
Well, yes and no, because I'm going to say this. We haven't done. We're going to do a video on this again. So you're getting a spoiler alert. But in going through the exercise, so in 2020, basically since we moved here, we've changed things up because of a variety of reasons. So we got rid of the goats, we replaced them with cows. We got rid of the cows. We tried the kuni pigs. Um, the cows and the kuni pigs didn't stay. We've made the decision to use the sheep as a primary thing, etc. But as we went through that, we've shocking revelation. We've basically come to the realization that we could simplify things really by going down to just three animals:
Mhm.
chickens, sheep. I'm going to say it would be the geese, would be the next one. The rabbits are kind of optional for us in our situation. Rabbits are still great, but they're not bringing, they're bringing something to the table that we like and we use a lot of, but
Yeah.
we don't need it. And that's exactly like what 1-2's saying. You don't need as much as you sometimes think you do. That being said, if you're trying to keep a population of something going on the animal front, then it gets harder too, because that's where you're finding the balance, right? Because it's like,
Mhm.
one dairy cow will give you all the milk you'll ever need, but you still got to get it bred, you still got to whatever, and then you get into all the dependency stuff where it just escalates. Whereas four groups of chickens with four roosters and six hens each, that's going to give you enough eggs to feed yourself, enough chicks to replenish, and enough to eat. You're not going to eat hundreds and hundreds of pounds of chicken, but you're still going to eat well.
Mhm. Well, like, where did I just see it here? Was it 18 chickens?
I'm
Where
going to
did
go
that
back up.
go?
Yeah, I think it worked out to 18 chickens. And while we're going back up, I think that is great that you have the English walnuts.
18 chickens. Okay, so 18 chickens is roughly 70 to 90 pounds, depending on the chicken. Let's go high end with 90 pounds per person, right? Because he's saying that's for one
year.
person.
Yep.
So yeah, that's probably about right, because we were sitting at, we said we needed 600 pounds of meat product. That included eggs,
And we dropped that because they
but we
were
dropped it.
recommending 800.
Yeah. Well, they were recommending 200 per person, and because we only have the kids half time, we went with 600. And I
And we're
think we've
also
also found now that realistically that number is still high for us. So that's where we've now gone down the discussion of maybe raising a few. Like we had 89 chicks born this year. That was more chickens than we needed.
but if it happens again,
Yeah, but we're not going to push for it to happen where we have before, where we've let more hens sit. We don't need to do that. There's a few things like that that we will definitely change this year. The big thing for us this year is we're going to milking the sheep. So we bred 12 ewes, or did we breed 10? 12. We bred 12 ewes this year, and we're going to see how that goes, because we don't know how many we need milking in order to get the dairy product that we need. So that'll be an interesting and watch this space type thing, because yeah, milking sheep is going to be new to us, and we're not really sure of how much it will produce and whether we've gone over the top. But as we said, breeding 12 ewes means you're going to have a minimum of 15 babies. Minimum, probably more like 18.
That's an actually excellent question, Ren's Homestead.
And this is where we've escalated to the point of almost talking about minimizing down to our 4 or 5 hens per line.
This is, well, I might not go into the full thing, but this is a balance, because this is all a balance, right? It's essentially ecology, in a way. How do I put it? It's a balance between what they produce, how much maintenance they require, and how much we could actually grow of their own food. So, like the sheep, for example, we have enough land to grow all their own food,
Mhm.
but that would require equipment. Where we think we're better to invest the money, I'm not answering your question directly right now during the textbook, but is in the pasture, because the longer we can have them on pasture collecting their own food, then the less hay they would require during the winter months. But we can't stop winter from happening. Excuse me. So we know we're always going to have hay.
Mhm.
Eventually, we will potentially have to make the choice. Do we invest in equipment? And I use the term equipment vaguely, to do that hay, or do we keep buying it? For now, we're going to keep buying it. The geese, you could potentially grow the grains for them, but they really don't eat a lot of grains. Um, and the return on the investment, you get the down, the meat, and the oil is what's making them sort of high priority. Plus, they're like no maintenance and work.
Well, but I think they're going more down the line of, for example, in a crisis situation, if you can't, how are you feeding these
But
chickens?
the thing is with the chickens is you'd be reducing it to the minimum number. So
Yeah.
it's finding that balance. So,
And we are experimenting with growing different options for them, i.e., the sorghum. They eat the sorghum grains quite well. Things like that we can actually grow.
the sorghum is probably going to be the saving.
Like we said, I think it was in our last live, we talked about the wheat and the fact that we would basically have to grow 5 acres of wheat if we keep going with what we're.
I'm going to say this, and it's probably going to be sound a little bit whatever, but it's almost looking, if you were to go to a very subsistence type part of the world where they don't get outside inputs, local trading, but they don't get pelleted feed and they don't get bagged grains, and you're doing it all with very minimal equipment. You don't have tractors, you don't have whatever things. It's looking at those things. It's like the sorghum. We can do that without fancy machinery. Uh, the squash,
Corn.
beets, corn. Unfortunately, corn has been whatever, but
Yeah.
those are all grains and whatnot that a human can do that themselves. You can do wheat, but you need a lot of it, and that's where it becomes problematic. It's not impossible, but then you look at time.
Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting challenge for us as we kind of. The ultimate goal of the homestead is to get to a sustainable state. This is where this is why we regale everyone with our economics and whatever, to show like straight up, this is what's been going on, and see if we can get it to
And the other problem with the chickens is protein, because chickens being omnivores require more protein. So this is where the rabbits have
played a role,
because the rabbits are something that if you have time, you can grow and collect food for them that we can't use or could be diverted to them. Let's put it that way. They could also help you feed your chickens, because the rabbits aren't going to give you eggs. The sheep aren't going to give you eggs. The geese will give you a few eggs, but not enough to, and then that also factors into your quote unquote meat part of things too, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, we haven't quite figured it all out. We don't have all the solutions. We are getting there.
Well, and it's finding that the balance of how many, for example, chickens, how many do we need, or what do we need, and how can we possibly keep our population, like what's the minimum birds that we can healthily keep.
Well, and you're doing
to
that
keep
with,
our population.
You're doing that with everything.
Exactly. Well, the only thing I said is the sheep, because
you can't have exponential numbers.
No, but we need to find the magic number that provides our dairy, and we're not there yet. So this year, like last year, we only bred 7 or 8 ewes. Did we breed 7 or 8?
I think it was 8.
And
the one didn't.
To be honest, we thought that was going to be a lot. We were not going to go over that. And then we made the decision to do dairy, and we plunged to breeding 12 ewes this year. So we may have regrets on that. I'm not sure, but it'll be interesting to.
We'll see.
Yeah.
How it goes.
But we'll have to open up that article there for CNC, because like
I'll do that. I'll open it up right
now. $1,200 for a thing of maple syrup. Although I tell you, I could use a bucket of maple syrup.
Well, it doesn't. I don't know. It is a lot.
Saying that, I don't miss it as much between the sorghum and the sugar beets.
But that's another thing for us with the sugar, right? We were going to, and I think we talked about this before, of diversifying. It's like diversity is good, provided diversity doesn't become cumbersome. That's the way to put it. When diversity becomes cumbersome, then you don't want that diversity. But if you can keep the diversity simple, how's that for a concept?
Yeah.
Then it's great to have it.
The rabbits, the one thing we said, okay. As we go back, the rabbits are something that we don't need because
we have the other stuff.
Let me finish. Because of the fact that we produce upwards of a couple 100 pounds of lamb a year, then we have chickens with eggs and meat and everything else. The rabbits are something that for our plate, we really don't need them. But yet the rabbits, wait. The rabbits are the one animal that we actually have here that we could completely feed. As you said with the Joel Salatin's son's book there with the grass and the hay, even if you didn't have grass and hay, you can. Our thoughts are growing them. The beets, the squash. Well, not the squash so much, but the what are the other beets? The mangels. They love the greens, the kale, things like that. The weeds, but even just getting a small tunnel covered of winter greens that keep going until January. Like when we bring our rabbits down to just the 12 bunnies in the January season, for January, February, March. So in the worst of it, when it's hard to gather stuff, if you can get a tunnel cover full of some of that stuff, even the frozen kale, they'll eat it.
Well, and that's the other thing about the chickens. The chickens are hardest to feed when there's no access to insects and greens and stuff outside. The feed cost for the volume goes down exponentially when they have access to compost piles or manure piles, compost piles, and insects and all that other stuff. So, yeah, it's different challenges, right? Because I know there's that one guy that in Vermont, I believe it is.
That has the big compost farm?
Yeah, he has the compost facility. And he can feed them off that, but he's bringing in a ton of inputs.
Yeah.
Right.
He's getting dump load trucks a day of compost that they are going and eating. So he can do it for nothing. We can't create that amount of compost.
No. No. We can create a lot, but we can't create that volume to really feed them that well. But we do find I will say with our rabbits, because you read a lot that people say, oh, don't feed them green feeds, they'll bloat and die and this, that, whatever. We've never had that happen. And we're not consistent. It's not like, don't get me wrong, you don't just bring them in a whole bunch of grass clippings when they've never had any greens. Like as the greens start growing in the spring, they get little bits, and I know that it's like a ruminant, right?
Reintroducing and getting the gut going.
You don't want to overload them, but they'll eat everything we pretty much give them. They have certain things they don't like, but we never have a problem with it. Like right now, we've switched a bit to feeding hay because we still are feeding pellets, but we've reduced it, and they're doing quite well on it.
Well, and it's the byproduct hay. It's the leftover hay.
It's better quality hay.
Oh yeah, it's still second cut, nice hay. But yeah, the rabbits are something that this year I think we're really attempting to get a bit more growing for them. That's another sort of change that's coming in the garden, is we're going to allocate a bit more space to rabbit gardens. That still double as gardens for us, because we like to eat the kale when it's nice and young, but the rabbits like it once it gets big and woody, and I don't like it. So you get to pick at it for a while, and then you just let it go, and it becomes rabbit feed.
And that's where it's like the kale, the red Russian kale, when we did the experiment on letting it go to seed, and we kept a pretty good population of them, so we should have
more seed.
But we've got thousands and thousands and thousands of seeds.
We have pounds and pounds of seeds.
So the red Russian kale doesn't cross with the other kales that we have. You could do that every year and produce tons of kale to feed them.
Well, look at people that had the pigs and stuff. They were planting fields of kale and then putting the pigs out in it.
Which at that scale wouldn't be sustainable, because you couldn't, you'd be buying the seeds to plant it.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's I don't know. We're getting off into some pretty abstract stuff, but there's definitely a lot of layers to it. And I really don't think there is a simple answer. There's not a one-size-fits-all answer. There's definitely some information out there. It's like you said, Joel Salatin's rabbit genetics. Don't disagree with it. I don't know if it's the only genetics out there that would work that way, but
I haven't seen the Suns one.
I haven't seen a video on it in a while, or some talk about it in a while. But
I mean, I've seen Joel Salatin's
you could
methods, but
I think you could do it yourself too. But yes, you basically get a head start if you could actually get that genetics right. I think that's the other part about it too. With this will be my closing deep thought about like crossing. Going back to the squash thing, you're getting a head start on all the work that's been done by others on creating those various squashes, because there's hundreds of different kinds from 4 species, right? So there's been tons of selective breeding go on. When you go the other way and put them all together, and you might still get food, but you're losing all those intrinsic values, and that's the part I don't know. People don't seem to, I don't articulate that well, I don't think. But
I was going to touch on Deborah's about the eggs. We don't purposefully feed them back, but
mostly
I think
to avoid them doing it on purpose.
you from the perspective of raising the chickens, we take the eggs away, because if you give them the egg, it teaches them to want to eat it. But then at times, if you have extra and you cook it up, like scramble it or something like that, so it's a different.
We just find, because we have had egg eaters pop up from time to time.
We don't.
If they realize that egg is
food,
then you'll have a hard time getting eggs from them. But
in a worst case scenario, you could feed it back to them. I mean, and obviously people crush up the shells and feed it back to their chickens for the calcium. But we don't do that. But
no, but then they do get a lot of calcium out of green growing plants too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But definitely, it's not that you couldn't do it. We don't do it. But I mean, sometimes in the leftovers that go out, like, I mean, if you make a meal and it's got egg in it, I don't take it out. Like, for example, if there was egg fried rice, and
they still get it.
They still get it, provided it wasn't chicken egg fried rice.
I think that for us, the best thing on a small scale, because we're butchering other animals, it's like the rabbits. If we cook a rabbit whole and you're left with the carcass, once you've taken the meat off of it, we take it out to them, because we do find the only reason we like the cooked is it's cleaner.
Yeah,
usually.
Well, and they get it. They get everything
they pick
off.
it right off really well.
Yeah, so we do spend the time to actually cook it.
But but anyways,
that's our live and rant for today. Oh, don't get started. We hum and haw back and forth about bees.
It's not in the cards for this year, for sure. But
I think I'd like to make the effort to tap our maple trees before we started bees. Because if we can make the maple stuff work, I'm happy. There's a lot of local people who produce honey that we can purchase from. So, yeah. Yes, you do need to go watch the squash video now and enjoy. Chris did a great job on that one. Managed to not get emotional.
Emotional over squash?
Yes. But anyways, thank you everybody for staying with us for the evening. We've gone way over time, as we always usually do. But
because there's usually really good conversation.
Yes. Hope to see you all next week. And it may end up being a round table with Thorhaven and me and New Acres and Rem. We haven't finalized that yet, but either way, we will be here at 8:30 on next Tuesday.
Yes. So everybody have a great week, and we will talk to everybody later.
Yes. Maybe if it wants to end, or we'll stay here all night.
Hit the button.
It's like, no, you can't leave yet.